So you are a freak, then?
I'm not a freak, I'm just special.
Special, yeah, I would say that.
Stimulating late-night sports conversation for people who know that just trying to find someone sober to talk to at this time of night is like trying to find a pig on the moon.
In the early morning mist I see.
No rules news debate from around the world and around the bend. The Two Mikes
Apply more lager.
on Talk Sport.
Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the Two Mikes on Talk Sport. It's Easter weekend, but we're not stopping here at Talk Sport. It may be bank holiday, but we're carrying on. We'll be all over the Bahrain Grand Prix, a massive set of Premier League fixtures, the mother of all bombs dropped by Donald Trump, and of course the opening of a new street in Pyongyang, which apparently had a lot of people worried that World War III was going to start. And as if all that's not enough, we've got Tim Vickery coming on from Brazil as well. 08717 22 3344. Plus it's Porky Quiz time as well, and because his performances have been so poor lately, he has insisted on the questions being taken from a game of Trivial Pursuit. We will be examining the cards in full, and I'm predicting 3 out of 10. You're listening to the Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. And I'm delighted to say that it is time to say a very good morning, I should say, to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to Mr. Parry.
Yeah, and a very good morning to you, Mike, as well. Coming towards the end of another scintillating week, I would say. Scintillating and progressive.
Very progressive week. Progressive week.
That's
Yes,
what
I would say
yeah.
lots of interesting things have happened,
Oh,
some of which
absolutely.
we will be revealing over the course of time.
We certainly
now,
will.
How about this from Dan? It says, now I realise the glorious Two Mike show is about to start. I will literally get no sleep tonight as it's already 3 a.m. in Qatar.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's what we like to hear. People
like
in
that?
LA, by the way, just tuning in right now. They will be, let me see, just about settling down for a couple of sundowners, won't they, before dinner?
Oh, yeah, I think so, yeah. Sundown, as you say?
Yeah, down on the beach at Malibu.
Very possibly so.
And
Alice's restaurant, I don't know if that's still there, actually.
Santa Monica, getting the King's Head, have a couple of pints before dinner and all that kind of stuff, okay?
Well, I suppose, maybe, yeah.
Yes.
There may be a lot of people out in Los Angeles who are in AA, you see, who don't go to bars anymore.
Well, we do have first-hand evidence now, of course, that people out in LA are listening to us because, of course, some of them are contacting us and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course, my favourite...
Well, we are in the midst of what you can only describe as the technological revolution.
Technological
people
revolution.
do listen in other parts of the world.
Well, of course, my favourite story...
And they can tweet us about it.
My favourite story about LA and AA, you know, which you've just pointed out. Why do you think a lot of people in LA are in rehab?
Well, because they like to meet other people who are also in rehab, and that way they get work. I mean, if you're in the movie business, the best place to meet directors and producers and other actors and
check
stars.
yourself into the Betty Ford Clinic.
It's one way, either the Betty Ford Clinic or some other kind of place, like the Sex Addiction Clinic in Arizona, which
I've
Michael
been there,
Davis
by the
went
way.
to. I know, you pretended you were a doctor,
or
just the local chapter of AA. You know, because you walk into any AA chapter in Hollywood or West Hollywood or Beverly Hills, and you're bound to meet somebody who can help your career.
Do you know what? I reckon that if we had a college in London called the College of Broken Radio Broadcasters, we'd have a similar sort of organisation.
Well, more, it'd be absolutely full to the gunnels, would it not be?
He'd fall to the gunnels, you're right. But, no, I've told you my favourite story about LA and AA. When we went into the restaurant in... Santa Monica, and we had a bottle of wine whilst we were looking at the menus.
The guy wouldn't serve you more than one bottle, right?
Well, he came back and he said, "Are you ready to order?" We said, "Yeah, we're ready to order, but before we do, get us another bottle of Pinot, will you?"
Yeah.
Another bottle of Pinot, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, please. Are you sure about this, sir? Yeah, absolutely certain. We thought he meant, do you want Chardonnay instead or something like that? Yeah, Pinot. So he goes away and he comes back and he hands us 2 cards. Alcohol awareness department.
Please drink in moderation in moderation.
Yeah, that's right. Do you know the damage that excess alcohol can do to your esophagus and all this kind of stuff,
Right.
So, I can't believe in a business that basically had to sell food and wine wants to sell people less wine.
Yes, absolutely right.
See, this bloke who got dragged off the plane is now saying it's the worst experience than anything that he went through in Vietnam.
Yeah. It's not easy to see what he was doing in Vietnam either. But
well,
I mean,
when was he in Vietnam?
Well,
Vietnam ended about like 40 years ago.
Well, he's about 60 something, isn't he? I mean, he's old enough to have been in it.
Well, he could have been.
But I'm just not sure precisely what he was doing. I guess that'll come out in the fullness of time.
Yeah.
But he's also claiming that he's lost 2 teeth.
And a fractured eye socket.
And a fractured eye socket and a broken nose. So he is going to walk away with an awful lot of money from United Airlines. As I said to you earlier in the week, this story will run and run, and United Airlines may well be shutting down.
Well,
closing down the shop.
I think you made the initial prediction, and you may not be far off the mark, because all I'm seeing when I go onto social networking now are people protesting that they don't want to fly on United Airlines in case the cabin crew beat them up.
Yeah, I know.
But tell you the other thing I found out today, because of course I do my research on these things. Apparently, and there'll be an expert out there somewhere, probably in America, who will clarify, but apparently when you buy an airline ticket on any airline in the world, because of the international airline regulations, there is absolutely no guarantee that they have to give you a seat once you've paid your money.
It's a little bit like, that situation people don't know about when you buy a ticket for the train in this country.
Right.
Unless you buy and reserve a seat, you do not actually have to be given a seat. All you get is transport on the train.
Yeah.
So if you buy even a first-class ticket or a second-class ticket, but you have not reserved a seat and the train is full, you've got to stand.
Well,
and they don't have to give you any compensation. They don't have to say, sorry, we didn't have a seat for you. You didn't book one, therefore you don't get one.
Yeah, I always book a seat, actually. It comes automatically when I get on the rattler.
But you book one because that's the way you do it. But what I'm saying is a lot of people just buy a ticket and assume that, I bought a ticket for the train, therefore I must have a seat.
Well, you're absolutely right. Online, there's always an extra box saying, do you want to book your seat now?
Right.
And so I always do, probably for that reason. Yes. Somebody advised me to. But no, it's astonishing that the part of their defence will be, there is no obligation on us to fly anybody who's on board our aircraft if you look at the terms and conditions on the ticket. So they will try and say that if nobody will get off and we've got to fly and people have to get off, then they have to, we have to somehow remove them from the plane.
Yes.
Because you can't fly an airplane with people standing in the aisle.
That's right, unless, of course, you're Mr. O'Leary from Ryanair, who would like to have people standing.
Well, I've always explored and investigated that idea.
Yeah.
The idea...
He wants to strap people to a sort of a standing wall.
I think you can.
Well, he would like to.
Problem.
Well, I don't think the health and safety people will allow it. That's the problem.
Well, I don't see why not, because I think you've got a better chance of surviving an air crash if you're standing up than you have sitting down.
Well, that depends.
If you're sitting down, a huge half-ton... chair could impact upon you. If you're standing up, you've got more chance of surviving.
Well, the G-force alone will mean that the chairs pull up out of the floor, right? So if you're secured to some kind of a wall, that could also be pulled up out of the floor, which could cause even more damage.
I think you'd have more chance of succeeding. I did once fly in a plane where people were standing.
Oh, yeah?
I flew out of Lahore in Pakistan.
In the old days when you had the bar area in first class, people stand, don't they?
Well, not when they're taking off and landing, I suppose.
No, I suppose not.
But later on. Oh, I love moving around on a plane in the business class to, make myself familiar with people and all that kind of stuff.
Make yourself familiar with people?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well,
you just walk up to them and go, hello, my name's Mike Parry.
Sometimes, yeah.
I'm in search of a friend.
I find there's a great deal of ambience in the business class section of an aeroplane because we are like-thinking people, you know what I mean? And
really?
And success breeds success.
Remind me never to fly in business class with you.
And that sort of thing. No, I once got a plane out of Lahore.
Yeah.
And it was Pakistan International Airlines, and I'm only stating the facts here.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people standing on the plane, and a lot of people had brought their livestock with them in cages and boxes.
Where were you flying
to? Karachi.
Oh, yeah. So it's an internal flight.
Is it Karachi in India?
Karachi's in Pakistan.
Oh, Karachi's in Pakistan. Yeah. Right, okay. Absolutely right then, yeah.
Thank goodness you weren't mingling with any of the passengers there in business class.
No, exactly.
Where are you going? I'm going to India. Well, no, you're not. You're going to Karachi.
That's right, yeah. And
you've got massive knowledge of the subcontinent, haven't you?
Yeah, huge, yeah. Yeah. Well,
maybe we should do a quiz on that one day.
Well, you can if you want, because, of course, I was a student of A-level history, in which we studied the Empress of India, Queen Victoria.
Is that right?
And the empire as it was in those days.
I see.
So I know quite a lot about it.
Well, that'd be why you think Karachi's in India, then.
No, it was in those days.
Before partition.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly, before partition. And, in fact, one of the greatest tragedies of the whole of the British Empire... was the Black Hole of Calcutta.
Was it?
Which people think is a joke, but it wasn't a joke.
No, it wasn't a joke.
No, it was a rebellion against the East India Company. East India Company.
Well, never mind. I don't want to talk about the East India Company.
They've got a bit upset about it.
Jason has sent us a very nice picture. He says, "Hey from LA, Mount Olympus looking west to Santa Monica and the South Bay." There you go. That's his view.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Isn't that nice?
Is that from his own apartment?
I would imagine so.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Although he doesn't say. It may be from somebody else's apartment.
Yeah, talking about glamorous locations, by the way, somebody sent me a picture of the sun going down behind HMS Warrior, which is berthed, obviously, in Portsmouth Harbour.
Oh, is this the one where it made it look like an explosion?
Yes.
The sun was setting.
And the building in the background is, in fact, Porky Towers.
Yeah.
That's where the old penthouse is. So,
right. So maybe you could point it out to people on the, you could draw a little picture of it.
Indeed.
Jackie says this, I have to say, if I see any more about that United Airlines fiasco, I will scream.
Well, I just think it gets funnier and funnier as it goes on. It was such a complete...
Not very funny. Well, I mean,
mess.
Everyone who's now on the plane has been compensated. Just because of what they've
seen. The trauma
of what they saw. Here's one from Becky in New Zealand. She obviously survived the cyclone that she was warning about yesterday.
Yes.
Listening to Two Mics, streaming baseball on smart TV, glass of wine with lunch, and looking forward to the Porky Quiz.
Excellent. Well done. You keep looking forward to that. It was a bit like...
it's in the time, by the way.
It's a bit like, although it didn't involve as much money, Deepwater Horizon.
Deepwater Horizon, yes.
The Shell situation, right?
Yeah, there's a movie out, isn't there?
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It was Shell, wasn't it?
It was BP, I believe.
BP, I beg your pardon. Of course it was, yeah.
Because
excuse
remember,
me, I exonerate Shell.
British Petroleum, even though it was not actually owned any longer by Britain.
No, that's
Britain
right.
took all the flack because everybody in America thought, well, it's British Petroleum, must be a British company.
And the man who stirred all that up was Obama, of course, the president, who said
he didn't have
Britain will pay.
Well, he did. Well, he didn't have to stir it up because, it was, unfortunately, the name was British Petroleum. They never changed it.
But the thing is, what I'm saying is, the boss of United will wake up every morning now, indefinitely.
Mr. Munoz.
Yeah, to this huge problem which threatens his company in the same way as I think he was British, actually, the British boss of British Petroleum woke up British, every day.
Yeah.
And the first question he asked his assistant, have we plugged the hole? No, sir, we haven't.
Yes.
Right. And the next day, have we plugged the hole?
Yeah.
No, sir, we haven't. How much oil is gushing out of the hole into the Gulf of Mexico? 22,000 barrels a day, sir.
Yeah.
Have we plugged the hole? No, sir, we have not.
No, we have not.
The interminable problem. Yeah. Must be terrible to have something like that.
It must be terrible to have something like that. Luckily, we don't have that kind of problem in our organisation. And this is, of course,
Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions.
We are the Two Mics. Loads more coming up. Talk Sport, we are the Two Mics, and of course it is Easter weekend. It's Good Friday, in fact. So I suppose technically I could offer you a happy Easter.
A happy Easter indeed. Although
if I had that sort of frame of mind,
I kind of regard Easter as Easter Sunday and Easter Monday. Good Friday.
Well, you don't like Good Friday?
Oh yes, I do, but it's a religious holiday for me. Believe it or not,
you're supposed to be religious. You call yourself a Christian, don't you?
Yes, I do. And
will you not be going to celebrate the crucifixion later?
No, but I will be eating fish.
Fish?
Yes, I always eat fish on Good Friday. Always.
Do you eat fish on any other Friday?
Every Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's special on
Good Friday. Yeah, but that's not a
Friday.
sacrifice for you because you eat fish and chips all the time.
Yeah, well, I won't have any chips with it then. I'll just have fish.
Just
two pieces of fish and no chips.
Okay.
That's a good idea,
What about
isn't
the peas?
No, I'll leave it just at the fish. That'll be my contribution to the Christian
I'm sure
festival.
I'm sure Jesus Christ will be very grateful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounded to me like a rather... unpleasant mocking of my faith, which I have to say.
I don't know what sort of a Christian you are, really, because you claim that you are, but you very rarely go to church. You're not going to go to church, are you, over the Easter period?
I may well if I can find time.
Really?
I always love a Sunday morning, Easter Sunday morning, Palm Sunday.
Well, you're not working on Sunday or Monday. You can go to church.
I could go. Yeah, but it's a celebration with the family, so they may not want to lose me for a couple of hours for obvious reasons.
They may not want to lose you for a couple of hours. I think they'd very much like to lose you for more than a couple of hours. Here's one from Stephen. He says, the Porky Alcohol Awareness Programme, £1,000 per day. Come on, Porky, a money spinner. It's your favourite subject.
That would be a great thing to do, wouldn't it? I'll tell you what I was going to talk to you about. The traffic situation coming in tonight seemed to have got you worse than it got me.
Well, I was going to tell you, actually, you're very fortunate I managed to make it in at all.
Well,
because I was almost... Would
I be more fortunate if you hadn't?
Well, you say that, but we all know that you work better with me as I do with you. So I think it's better not to try and plough your own furrow. But I found myself at the hands of an angry mob. As I was trying to drive up Hatfield, right, which is the road in which we
funny enough, a couple of minutes earlier, I had negotiated and navigated the same hazard, and this was a very sizable lorry,
a large van, white van,
which had written on the side something to do with a bakery or Lowe's or something.
Was it not a vegetable van?
No, it wasn't. No, it was pastries or bakery or something like that.
But the thing was, there was, for people who don't know, it's quite a narrow street.
It's a very narrow street,
and there's cars parked all the way up
on the left-hand side.
So basically, there's only enough room for one lane of cars.
And then this van,
this guy had parked on the opposite side,
half on the road and half on the pavement.
Half on the pavement, thereby making it quite difficult not only to get past him, but impossible for anybody to even go up on the pavement and go around another car.
That's right.
If there were cars coming in both directions. Now, You said to me that you managed to get past because there was nothing coming the other way.
I only just managed to get past. With my wing mirrors, I thought this is going to be very tight for anybody with a car wider than this one, you know?
Exactly right. So anyway, I was approaching this van, and as I got closer to the van, which means I turned in from the main road, which is called the Cut.
That's
and
the Hope and Anchor pub.
That's right. I'd passed something like 6 cars.
Yeah.
Now, as far as I'm concerned, the etiquette in the situation of driving down a road where 2 cars come face to face is that if you've got less room to go back than the person opposite you,
go back.
Then you go back.
Yeah.
And the guy who was facing me had 1 car space to go back, and that would have let me go.
Yes.
So I just, pulled up in front of him, and I said, well, would you go back, please? I motioned to him. He was like a taxi driver, and he obviously got completely flummoxed. Because he then started trying to back up onto the pavement, and then a black cab came behind him, who also didn't move, and so I was then faced with 2 cars which weren't going back, and I had nowhere to go.
Yeah, were the cars behind you by this stage?
I don't know. There was still no car behind me, but I would have had to back out all the way to the main road.
Yes.
So I would have had to go back the distance of, say, 6 parked cars.
By which time 6 or 7 cars might have gathered on the other side of the road to filter past you.
And it's very dangerous to back out into a main road.
Of course
So as far as I was concerned, I was totally in the right, and it didn't occur to me that I wasn't in the right. Next thing I know, I see the woman in the back of the first car, who was clearly, the worse for wear, sort of gesticulating out the window and shouting and telling me to go back. And so I opened the window. I said, no. I said, you guys are very close to the where the space is.
Yeah.
You go back. We're not going, it started this huge round. Then this guy who was the van driver, who had double parked and was on the pavement, comes round and says to me, you're a very ignorant man. And to which I was slightly thrown, to be honest, because, I've been in plenty of rows on the car front, but I didn't think I'd done anything wrong.
What did you say to him?
I said, what are you talking about? I said, you're double parked. I said, you have got your car parked blocking the road.
That's right.
Don't
your
tell
vehicle.
Me,
not
don't tell
your
me
car, your vehicle,
your van. I said, don't tell me I'm ignorant. I said, why don't you move your van?
Yeah.
Which he then did, and so he backed the van up, which meant that the other cars could go around me onto the pavement, thereby, because I wasn't moving, And, these girls are in the back shouting. One of them's got the window down, giving me the finger.
This is terrible. Did you use profane language?
I did not, no, because as far as I was concerned, no, I was very calm.
Sure about this,
No, I was very calm. Because I'll tell you why. Because I knew that I was in the right.
Yeah.
But this was a good example of how, when you're in the right and everybody else thinks you're not, the mob then takes... Then suddenly there was about 10 people walking down the street on the other side who were all completely smashed out of their minds.
And they were all having a go at you.
And they were all pointing at me, going, move back.
Are you sure you're in the right? It seems like everybody else had a go at you.
Of course I was in the right.
Nobody seemed to have any sympathy with you.
No, because this is what happens.
I think it could be your attitude.
No. I was very calm.
And then, there's a bit of effort and blinding going
on. No, there was none, actually.
There would be with you.
No, because I was quite shocked to find that everybody thought I was doing something wrong, because I wasn't. Yes. And to prove it, the final sort of denouement of the story was the black cab driver then came past, and as he went up on the pavement, he had his window down, and he recognised me.
Yeah.
He's obviously a listener to the show.
Sure.
And he goes, Mike, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? I said, I'm sitting here. You guys should have gone back.
Yeah.
He says, you're very stubborn, aren't you?
Very stubborn.
And I said, no. Yeah. I said, I shouldn't. Why should I go back 5 yards?
This guy's probably listening to you right now.
He probably is, and I'm very grateful. And I'm very grateful for his words of what were quite comforting words, because he was not at all shouting and effing and blinding at me. But he did think that I was in the wrong. And I said, look, I'm not in the wrong. This guy was parked here. You guys should have gone back. And, that's the end of the story. But, and then he said, shouldn't you be off on holiday? And I went, no, I'm working tonight.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, good, I'll be listening to you later.
I'll be listening to you later. So he's listening. But then the final insult was that when the van driver eventually passed you as you parked, he made a very rude gesture at you, didn't he?
What can only be described as a gesture with his wrist and his right hand.
Oh, disgusting. This is terrible.
And I was,
I got his number anyway, don't worry.
Did you?
Yeah, I got his number.
I might report him.
We're going to report him. Without shadow of doubt, we're reporting him.
Because he was parking illegally, for a start.
Aggressive.
He was causing an obstruction.
It's an aggressive hate crime, what he did.
Yes, well, I wouldn't go that far. But certainly, I'll tell you why I didn't get involved because I was sat there and I thought to myself, look, there are 2 cars telling me I should be going back, which I'm not going to do. This guy, who was obviously spoiling for a bit of a fight, so I wasn't going to get out of the car and have a go at him. I mean, on other occasions I might have done, but I was quite relaxed tonight, so I didn't bother.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see when some people think that they can join a mob, regardless of whether... like the people walking down the street had no idea who was in the right.
No, they decided to pile in against you.
They decided to pile in against me.
Well, you say that, you're in the right,
I think it's because
everybody else seems to criticise you.
Yeah, I think it was just because they were envious of my car, to be honest.
Well, could have been, yeah.
They thought, look at this guy, got a flash car.
Yeah, that's right.
Thinks he could, mess everybody
What you have
else
to
around.
really watch out for...
They may have recognised it's just been named the car of the year.
Maybe, yeah. What you have to really watch out for here is some people who don't even have respect for other people's property and have no respect for themselves, might have then stuck the boot into your car.
Well, exactly.
See, this is the problem.
And that can happen. And
that
so
can happen all the time.
And I was conscious of that situation. But
That's what cyclists do a lot.
I genuinely did not think I was in the wrong.
Yeah.
And, I mean, had I been, I would have been more than happy to.
Yes,
I mean, I'm generally very polite. I let people in all the time.
Yeah.
I thank people if they let me in.
Yeah, good.
You know, this was a ridiculous situation that was very, very indicative.
Sounds very shocking.
Of the problem that we have in this country.
And
now, how about this from Mick Wills? He
yes.
says, not only did you mention our favourite old King's Head in Santa Monica, but you're very right. Those of us from LA in the film business love our booze.
Lovely, good. I'm glad that's...
Why are you congratulating him?
Well, because I think that's the right attitude to have in life. Just for a moment, talking about travelling in at night, by the way, every night I turn off Kennington Road, which is just a main road for those who are lucky enough not to have to use roads in London, and turn left to go towards Westminster, to come up here.
Right.
And every night there's a red light stopping me on the bend. And...
What do you mean every night there's a red light stopping?
There's always a red light stopping.
Well, is there a traffic light?
It's a traffic light.
Well, why wouldn't it be red?
It's a traffic... Yeah, because there's no purpose to it. There is no purpose to it because there is no obstruction, there's no pedestrian crossing, there's nothing. Do you know what there is?
What?
Cutting across that road at that point is the cycle superhighway crossing.
Right.
And a stupid little green bike...
Oh, the little green bike that says they can go.
Yeah, comes up on the side,
right.
says you can go.
I don't object to that.
Except that's been going on for a year, and never in that whole year, and it's one of the longest lights in London, it keeps you stopped for 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Ever in 1 year...
Well, you can't spare 4 minutes out of your very precious time.
For what? Because never in 1 year has one single cyclist
maybe
ever crossed in front of me whilst that light has been red against me and green for cyclists. There are no cyclists. They do not exist.
Yeah, well, they do exist.
They do not exist at 11 o'clock at night.
You may just have been unfortunate enough not to see one.
They do not exist at 11 o'clock at night. The light should be calibrated to be operational for cyclists when there are cyclists there, and when they're not, you shut it down.
Right.
And you allow motorists free use of the roads they pay for, the tarmac that they alone fund to be laid on roads so cars can drive over it.
It's a very boring soliloquy that you've been doing now for years and years and years.
Well, if I didn't, nobody would.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
If I didn't, nobody would.
Yeah, but but plenty of people would, but they would actually realise that there's no point in complaining about it because
weak
it's just
and
the way...
subservient individuals like you who just say, I've given up the ghost,
I haven't given up any ghost.
I will let the mad people, like the Mayor of London...
Yeah, like you're the mad person around here.
I will let mad people like the Mayor of London and all these cohorts just keep building cycle lanes all over the place.
You don't even live in London.
What do you mean I don't live in London?
You come here, you visit London, don't you? You tell me you live in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey. You don't live here.
I do.
Well, so you don't live in London.
I pay my taxes for the roads to be built here.
You don't pay congestion charge. You come in too late.
Listen, mate, I'm smarter than the average bear. The reason I don't pay congestion charge is because...
So you don't pay for the upkeep of the roads at all?
Because it goes at 5 miles an hour.
Yeah,
well, the congestion charge doesn't pay for the upkeep of roads. The congestion charge pays for the hundreds of people who work in the mayor's office who do useless, hopeless jobs which contribute nothing to the economy of this city.
Really?
Or any other city.
And what do you contribute to it?
Me?
Yeah.
Enterprise.
Drive.
Really? Dynamism.
I see.
Ideas.
I haven't heard any ideas coming from it. All I hear from you is a lot of shouting,
wealth
and
creation,
a lot of whining, a lot of moaning. And what you need to do is grow up, grow a pair, and stop complaining.
Talk Sport on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Freedom for sport.
Can we kick it? Yes, we can. Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. If any of you were involved in that fracas in Hatfields earlier on, especially if you were the taxi driver that spoke to me, by all means give us a call. And you can tell everyone what a decent guy I was. Porky seems to think that I was effing and blinding. I certainly was not doing that. And I was being as good as I could be, given that I was not indeed in the wrong. 08717.
Can't see why everybody was having a go at you, you didn't get any public sympathy.
Well, you must realise, because you will have been on the wrong side of public opinion more times than most people.
Yes.
Because you come up with all these wacky ideas that people don't agree with.
Because I tell it like it is.
Well, exactly. So you must understand that sometimes the mob will go against you.
Well, the mob are feeble-minded,
but the mob quite often are wrong.
Yeah, feeble-minded and really hopeless, dopey people. That I find the mob sometimes.
See, that's a terrible thing to say. Steve says this, regarding churches, doesn't Porky like to stand at the back of churches and observe weddings?
No.
Hashtag Pastor Paul. I think you've said that in the past.
No, I haven't.
William says, is Porky getting...
I observe weddings?
Yeah, you said that before, that you've watched people getting married. You have. I mean, you can't keep denying stories that you've previously told.
I have walked past churches sometimes and seen people get married.
Right.
And what I find quite comforting is that in this world of unknowns and terrorist attacks and bombings and all that there is actually still goodness about when you see two people getting married and all the emotion and the affection that draws out of people, which I think is very nice.
I see.
And the more of that, the better. All I'm doing is celebrating civilization, nothing else. But I don't go around standing at the back of churches watching people getting married. No.
Okay, all right. John, who says he's carp fishing in Essex, says, could you please ask the two mics if they would consider putting some of their best transport stories together as a Christmas special compilation? Yeah. That would be a licence to print money.
Well, funny enough...
That might work, won't it?
We have been talking to our engineers this week, thank you very much, and what we've been talking about is trying to meet the demand that is clearly about for us to make some more material available to people who want it. And we're working on that. We'll let you know all about it after Easter.
Absolutely.
That's the best thing to say.
I think that is the best thing to say.
Right, now, I want to talk to you, please, about talking about that sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm getting some abusive text from some guy who's unfortunately sending it in by his mobile phone number, by the way.
Yes.
So we'll be giving him a ring later.
OK, that's great.
To sort him out.
Yeah, we can get back to him.
Yeah.
And in fact, we can report this one to the police.
Yeah, we can.
Because he's got his phone number on it and the language is filthy. So that's going straight to the Met Police, mate.
Yeah, very good. Keep it up, mate.
Yeah, keep it up. Thank you very much indeed for identifying
yourself. And it's
yourself.
cost him 50 pence.
It's going to cost him a lot more.
Plus his normal sending charges.
That's right. Now, what I was going to say to you was, without sounding sort of egotistical in any way...
You would never want to do that.
No, I'd never want to do that. But we do have a sort of form of a trademark in that we're known as the Two Mics, okay?
That is true.
And, for instance, we have the Two Mics DVDs, and we have Two Mics T-shirts and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. Now, what I want to talk to you about is the fact that I've come across a piece of information that young Harper Beckham, who is 5 years of age, has now been registered as a name in a range of branded products, including makeup, toys and clothing.
What, Harper Beckham, the two names?
The Harper Beckham trademark has been registered for use in industries as diverse as entertainment.
Really?
Should she wish to follow her mother's career as a pop star, okay?
Right. Now, I suppose the original thought on that would be... That's ridiculously kind of money-grabbing and crazy. But
I don't see it that way.
No, well, I was going to say, what it might be is them trying to protect the name.
I was about to say...
registering it before somebody else does.
I was about to say, you're absolutely right, that Harper is an unusual name anyway, but you can bet your life because one of the Beckham's children is named Harper, that other children now will have been named Harper.
Well, I haven't heard of anybody called Harper.
Well, I haven't, but it takes years for it to filter through, doesn't it? You know, Madonna,
well,
there's loads of kids called Madonna from 30 years ago.
Well, that's true, but also because I've got kids at school and they've got younger brothers and sisters, you do tend to hear unusual names if there's a sort of
I see what you mean,
a glut of that kind of thing, and I haven't heard Harper, I have to say.
But anyway, look, you're absolutely right in what you've just said, because to take this piece of information on, Mrs. Beckham, that's Posh Spice or Victoria Beckham, has also signed up the names of sons Brooklyn, Romeo and Cruz, Brooklyn 18, Romeo 14 and Cruz 12, to the UK's Intellectual Property Office and the EU-wide office. Now, I think this is only sensible and the proper thing to do. It means the children are now officially part of Brand Beckham. David registered his name in 2000, while Victoria trademarked hers in 2002, and the couple are worth a conservative £500 million.
Just the £500 million.
Yeah. An intellectual property expert, Oliver Bray, asked about the situation, said... it is unprecedented to trademark a 5-year-old. However, they are an unprecedented family. You see what I mean? I mean, their worldwide fame is enormous. He said it normally happens when your career is getting going. The usual advice when you start to become a public figure is let's get some protection in place. This looks to be...
certainly commercial protection,
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. This looks to be future-proofing, which is what Victoria Beckham seems to have done with her children. Maybe a sign of the times with social media. Now, I'm not going to start, flagging up the Beckhams down to,
Was their older boy, or the 11-year-old, not very heavily criticised for trying to release some single, whether it was a charity single or something like that?
Well, that would be Cruz, who's now 12.
May have been him, but he was getting pelters on social media.
Yeah, but you see, I don't...
And it became a big thing because people said, well, if you don't want your 11-year-old to be given, abuse on social media, don't put him out there. Don't let him run an entertainment company.
Yes.
Don't let him record his own music. Yeah. If you're not prepared to put up with some of the slings and arrows that are going to come his way.
And I think our good pal Piers actually became critical, didn't he?
He did.
And said to the Beckhams that, he actually used a pretty tough word. He said they're pimping their children.
Yeah.
But I simply don't see it as that. I see him as a protection. Now, the other thing is, because the Beckhams are in the world of showbiz, entertainment, worldwide fame as a footballer, it's not unusual for children to follow their parents into the profession their parents have undertaken.
No.
You know, you see, I mean, my dentist, for instance, right, he was a great guy.
Yeah.
When he was away on holiday once.
Where's he from, the dentist?
He's from Northern Ireland.
Northern Ireland, right.
Northern Ireland. Mr. Cullen. And he's
Cullen.
a great dentist.
Is he?
Mr. Parry, great to see you.
He sounds like he's got a mouthful of ivories.
No, I haven't got a mouthful of ivory. He really loves to see me walk in, especially when I'm signing a cheque for $5,000 for new teeth, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, yeah.
And that's a joke, by the way, Mr. Cullen. But what I'm saying is, when he goes on holiday...
Yes.
Guess who does my teeth?
I don't know.
His son.
Really?
Yeah, who's also called Mr. Cullen, believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, that's
Cullen
right.
Jr.
Yeah, Cullen Jr. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, who does the teeth. Right. And the other great thing, by the way,
is his son qualified to do them, or does he just sit in for him?
Well,
all right, Dad. I'll do the business while you're away. That'll be fine.
I assume he's a qualified dentist.
He may not be.
But I haven't actually asked to see his certificate, you know. But he wields a mean sort of drill.
He's not the guy that came round to upholster your chair.
No, he wasn't. No. But I tell you what's interesting as well. It's fascinating, this, isn't it, about dentists and things? Because my first dentist we ever had was Mr. Smith, who was blind, drunk.
Blind?
Yeah, he was a former Navy dentist from the Second World War.
How could he work as a dentist if he couldn't see?
He was blind. He wore glasses that he couldn't see through.
Right.
He was drunk all the time. His hand was very shaky, and he never allowed children to have anaesthetic before he drilled into their teeth.
Dear God.
Yeah, oh yeah. It was
Was
like
this your childhood dentist?
It's a childhood dentist,
Blimey.
yeah. It's no wonder I've had a disturbed childhood.
No, it is not no wonder.
But these days,
Not for the first time.
what Mr. Cullen Sr. does is, if he thinks there's a particularly interesting aspect of my teeth, he takes a picture of it with his drill camera, because there's a camera on the drill.
Drill camera?
Yeah, you know, on the drill they
What are you
use.
talking about?
Well, you know,
They've got like a tiny little camera.
A tiny camera on the end of the drill.
But it's not on the drill, is it?
It is.
Is it?
It is.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, it is.
Sure, it's not on the end of a little piece of thing that they put down inside your mouth.
It's all on the same device because when they're teaching, the students can watch. You see what I mean? As the drilling's going on.
See,
and
I
all
would
that
let
kind
them
of stuff.
do you let them do that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I say it's not a problem.
I would let them do that.
But what he can do is sometimes if he's got a particular problem, I've seen him ring up his son.
Yeah.
And say,
where's his son?
well, he's in another practice somewhere else.
Oh.
And he said, I'm going to send you pictures of this. Have a look at it, will you, and give me a call.
Right.
And two minds are better than one type thing. You know what I mean?
It all sounds very strange, this.
But anyway, listen, getting back
what
to...
What else do they do to Cullen, father and son? Cullen and Sons. We'll do a bit of dentistry.
Well, I hope you won't mind me discussing his family. I think he's got 4 sons, and one of them is a dentist.
Right.
I said, hey, you're follow my father into the...
What's the other one? What's the other one?
The other he
Terrorist.
said, yeah, come for... No, that's a terrible thing to say. Retract that.
Sorry.
No,
that was an outrageous thing to say.
It was.
I do take it back.
His other sons are all successful in their own rights, but they each said to Mr. Cullen, hey, Dad, no chance of me getting stuck into somebody's mouth, you know. I got better things to do in life. Forget that. You forget your dentistry.
Right.
Anyway, the point I was going to make is... So if we look at the great brand name, the Two Mics, we name videos, T-shirts, that kind of stuff, podcasts and all that.
Right.
I'll just read you 1/10 of the list of the things that brand Beckham now can be trademarked on. Okay. And this is fascinating. I'll do it quick.
And this is just the second name Beckham, right? Not any other name.
Brand Beckham.
Right. Okay.
Brand Beckham. Right. Anti-wrinkle cream, mascara, hair dyes, bronzer, lipsticks, aromatherapy oils, postcards, wrapping paper, pencil sharpeners, Christmas cards, banana bags, golf umbrellas, children's playhouses, rag dolls, puzzles, bouncy castles, Christmas tree decorations.
That's incredible.
That is just a selection.
Right. Now,
incredible.
you might give them the benefit of the doubt by saying
I do give them the benefit of the doubt.
This is all to protect other people from putting out Beckham umbrellas and Beckham bouncy castles.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure that that's true. I think that they are actually making an outrageous amount of money off their own name.
There's nothing wrong with making money.
There's nothing wrong with making money, but I think
money
people...
creates wealth.
But it doesn't always create wealth. It creates wealth for single individuals. It doesn't create wealth for lots and lots of people. Now, I've got a couple of bones
because
to pick.
if you're marketing an umbrella, somebody's got to make the umbrella.
Yeah, probably in China.
Well, okay, but somebody's making the umbrella.
Yeah, in China.
What's that going to do? Why do you dislike Chinese people?
I don't
Why are you
dislike Chinese
anti-Chinese?
people. I'm not anti-Chinese. But
You certainly are.
What
You
I'm telling you,
spat out all the big umbrellas in China.
No, because what it means is that it does not create a job in this country. It does not create any wealth in this country for the person making the umbrella.
Worldwide. It's creating wealth worldwide.
Well, how much do you think you pay somebody in China to make a few hundred umbrellas in a day?
Listen, mate, trade is global.
Stop calling me mate.
Manufacturing is
not
global.
Call me mate.
Everything is global. I have to be dismissive with you, because you simply don't understand a lot of the way the world works.
I see. Well, you think you're the one that said before this show, look at this idiot, he doesn't even have a housekeeper.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Well,
you think you're in the real world?
Well,
you need to get a grip, Sonny boy. This is Talk Sport.
Don't call me Sonny boy.
Take me on a roller coaster.
Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes, and that music can only mean one thing. It must be that Tim Vickery is here with us, of course. We missed him on Monday night, so we wanted to get him back on tonight to hear what's going on in his part of the world. Tim, a very, very good morning to you, and welcome to the Two Mikes.
Thank you very much. I was even missing Brian Ferry's dulcet tones there, so you've institutionalised me.
Yeah, well, good. That's good. It's a sort of Stockholm syndrome going on because, of course, Ollie may have been in on Monday night, but he's not here tonight.
Yes,
it's Mr. Will Gavin. Now, a couple of quick tweets before we move on, because I want you to think about these, Mr. Parry, because you've got people all worked up about this traffic scenario. Yeah. Andy says, so despite, quotes, being in the right, MG, you refused to go back 5 yards. 5 yards? Yeah. Do you think you may have just been overly stubborn? I never said 5 yards, Andy. I said 6 car lengths, and the people that I was facing only had to go back 1 car length. Yes. And then MB says, if the 6 cars were on your side of the road, then I'm afraid you were in the wrong, regardless of whether you had to reverse or not. Well, again, incorrect, MB, because I come up this road every single night when I come to work, and the way that the thing works is that if you've got more cars behind you than the guy that's in front of you.
Don't you think you've justified this enough? Sorry about this, Tim. It's terribly boring.
No, it's not boring.
You bicker amongst yourselves.
No, you just don't. No, Porky just doesn't like it because it's not about him. He hates us talking about anything which does not involve him.
It's a tiny little back road in somewhere lost in East London, and he's fascinated by the fact that nobody would get out of his way. But that's, by the way, what I want to talk to you about, Tim, is the fact that Johan Veron, who was one of the great failures of the Premiership revolution here in Britain, is thinking about a comeback at 42.
Well, he's not thinking about it. He's done it.
What?
He came back. His first game back was on Tuesday. He is the club president of Estudiantes. It's the club where he started out. It's the club where his dad was an idol. Yeah. Scored the goal when they won the World Club Cup. They beat Manchester United in 1968. So Veron is the club president, and he's decided that he's going to play again, which puts his coach, the coach is Nelson Vivas, who you might remember as defender for Arsenal, didn't do very well there. No. It puts Nelson Vivas in an awkward position, really, because Nelson Vivas is simultaneously Veron's employee and his boss.
That's right.
He's an employee because Veron's the president, and he's the boss because Veron is now back as a player. Yeah. Veron is not registered for the league games in Argentina, but he's registered himself for the Copa Libertadores games, South America's Champions League. Yeah. He couldn't play the first one. I was going there, and on the way to the stadium, here in Rio against Botafogo, we found out that it had just been unearthed that he had a suspension from a sending off in 2011, so he couldn't play that one. But he played Tuesday night at home. They could have sold out the stadium there in La Plata 3 times over. He is such an idol there, and really, I think he did have some good games for United, and Chelsea didn't go well for him at all.
Very few.
But I always liked Veron as a player. I thought he was very sort of imperious.
He didn't set the Manchester Ship Canal on fire, did he? Or the Thames?
No,
you don't want to do that, do you?
Which I don't think is entirely his fault. I always thought it was difficult to imagine how they're going to fit him and Roy Keane into the same lineup, because they both wanted to boss things from quite a deep-lying position. Yeah. I think that was one of the problems that United had, that they kind of bought him without really knowing what they were going to do with him. But I've always thought that if the Premiership didn't see the best of him, that's your loss. Because he was a great success in Italy, and a smash when he came back to Argentine football. Yeah. And the thing that makes him capable of making a comeback at the age of 42 is that, all right, some of the others can do much more running, but he does a lot of thinking. And his passing is still like radar. And it's one of those things with a bit of...
I do a lot of thinking, but I wouldn't dream of,
but most of your thinking is fairly hopeless, though, isn't it?
Oh, yes,
get you anywhere.
I could expect only that from you. Tim, sorry, please go on. You think he's a thinking footballer?
Well, he is, and his passing's like radar, which, for all the thinking that you do, Mr. Parry, I'm not sure you can pass the ball quite like Juan Sebastian Veron. And he was still doing it on Tuesday night. He was still pinging about some 40-yard balls or just cushioning off some lovely little passes. He lasted an hour, didn't do badly at all in that hour. But his team were beaten at home by a team from Ecuador called Barcelona, who are strong and quick and good on the counter-attack, and they won 2-0. It means Estudiantes have an absolute crunch game next Wednesday at home against the reigning champions, Atlético Nacional of Colombia. And it'll be interesting to see if Veron decides to kind of select himself or force Nelson Vivas to select him again. But a blow, he's certainly striking a blow for the over 40s, and good on him.
He certainly is. And has he got any sort of ambitions in the national sides scenario? Because the Argentinians are in need of a new coach, aren't they?
Well, yeah, I don't think he's quite ready to coach the team. Although I wouldn't rule him out of it in the long term. Yeah. They have just sacked their coach, which given that Edgardo Bauza, given that he got a vote of confidence last week, he was probably expecting the dreaded vote of confidence.
Yes.
So they've sacked him, and the only surprise to me is that they've sacked him without having a replacement lined up. I know that they don't have a competitive game until the end of August. They do have a friendly against Brazil in Australia, of all places, in June. You can imagine at the end of the European season, the players been desperate to go all the way to Australia for a friendly.
Sure.
But it could even be that they have a caretaker coach for that friendly, which renders the thing even more meaningless. But who do they want? It's very clear that their first candidate is the fellow who coaches Sevilla, Jorge Sampaoli, who's a very exciting coach. He's a horrible little bald man, quite frankly, but a very exciting coach.
Horrible little bald man.
It's a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Is he not a mate of Bielsa's? Did he not come up through that school?
Bielsa is his absolute idol.
Yeah.
He didn't. They come from a similar part of Argentina. They didn't know each other. And Bielsa's a kind of aristocrat from a very, very influential family, a family of lawyers and so on. His brother was Argentina's foreign minister a few years back. Sampaoli has come up from the wrong side of the tracks. He's a bit of a kind of poor man's Bielsa, and I think that connection is interesting because in the same way, Bielsa's just about to go back to Europe with a French club next year. But Bielsa's two previous trips to Europe, Atletico Bilbao and Marseille, he's burnt the side out by March. It's very high intensity, high pressing, and if the season ended in February, they'd have been champions of everything. But in the last couple of months of the season, they've run out of gas. And the same thing has happened with Sevilla. You remember that first hour against Leicester in the previous round of the Champions League in the first leg?
Yeah.
They could have been 5 or 6 up.
They should have been,
But by the last half hour, they're already beginning to slide. Eliminated by Leicester, they're on the slide in the Spanish First Division as well. So you wonder if his sides, if he works them too hard, and if his sides can last the season.
I'll tell you what, Tim, Argentinians are very emotional, and if they wanted an interim manager, I would expect Ozzy or Dealers to be on the next plane back.
Well, I'm sure Ozzy would do it for only one
game,
but it does render the whole thing pointless, isn't it? Having a warm-up friendly. For an absolutely crunch game that they've got at the end of August with no Lionel Messi, they're away to Uruguay, and if they lose that one, they could be outside the qualifying. They're at the moment 5th place, which is the playoff position. If they lose, they could be in 6th and in danger of watching the World Cup on TV. They've got a warm-up friendly against Brazil.
See, that'd be terrible.
If they have a caretaker coach, I think it just renders the whole thing a farce.
If you don't have Argentina in a World Cup, then it's a much diminished competition.
I was going to ask Tim, actually, when was the last time they didn't make a World Cup final?
1970.
Was it 70?
The world doesn't seem to have missed them too much.
But they're only 16.
Mexico was a pretty good World Cup, you'd have to say.
Yeah, it was. It was a brilliant World Cup, and Brazil were the best in the world, weren't they, by a mile? But there were only 16 teams in it then. In an expanded World Cup, to have no Argentina means the qualifying system is wrong.
Or there's a lot of strength in depth in South America.
Yeah.
Right, recent years, since they've had this marathon qualification format in 1996... Best World Cup ever for Ecuador, 2006. Best ever for Paraguay, 2010. Best ever for Colombia, 2014. The last two have been the best ever for Chile, with the exception of 62, which they hosted. It is a very, very competitive qualification campaign, unlike Europe, which means by the end of it, you should be battle-hardened and ready to do something in the World Cup. And in the last 2 World Cups, only one South American side has failed to get out of the group.
Yeah. And interesting, looking at all the South American players. I mean, Barcelona obviously had a bad week again this week. We'll see whether they can manage to come back against Juventus the way they did against PSG. A lot of people don't seem to think they will have it quite so easy because Juventus have only let in, I think, 2 goals in the whole competition. But Neymar's been been red carded. Messi's kind of not quite himself. Suarez not doing the business. I mean, is that kind of golden age of South American footballers in Europe coming to an end for a while?
Well, remember where Barcelona's season went wrong last year? It was exactly at this time, right after, for the first time in the World Cup qualifiers, Messi, Suarez and Neymar all travelled across to South America for World Cup qualifiers. It's a tiring journey, gruelling games, journey back, and they just lost that little bit of spark. You know, these South American players, they make sacrifices for their national teams that European players wouldn't make. I remember doing radio with Alan Shearer a few years back, great England player, England captain, and he said it was his dream to be captain of England, but he gave it up at the age of 29 because, he said, it was the only way to prolong his career at club level. Now, if you look at Alan Shearer's international career, he was an England player for 9 years. Do you know how many games he played that are outside Europe?
No idea.
A grand total of 1.
Really?
That warm-up friendly in China just before Euro 96. That's the only international he played outside Europe. So he gave it up at 29, and he wasn't doing any travelling. You know, the South Americans, they make unbelievable sacrifices to play for their national teams. That they embark on long journeys, and they do it knowing that if the team loses, they're going to be criticised at the end of it. Yeah. The national teams in South America, I think they're just more important than the national teams in Europe.
Oh, they are. I shall no doubt. Tim, just to divert for a minute and talk about travelling, do United Airlines travel down to Buenos Aires?
I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about here? I mean, this airline, you know, one of the biggest in the world and one of the biggest in America, could now go bust because of the horrendous PR response to beating up a passenger and dragging him off the plane.
Yeah, I took them last year on my inaugural trip to the United States, and I wasn't impressed. So if they want to do any PR with me and give me a free flight, then let the record state that I'm willing to accept such bribes.
Absolutely.
Well, as long as you don't have to be dragged off the plane.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, it may not be around for very much longer. You know, we shall see. What I was going to ask you about, though, is Mr. Sanchez, of course, whose name still very much in the headlines here because nobody knows whether Arsene Wenger is going to stay at Arsenal. Nobody knows whether some kind of director of football is going to be brought in. Nobody knows whether Sanchez is waiting to find out. What's being said in Chile or in your part of the world about whether he's staying at Arsenal?
I think that there's two things that he wants. And he was at Barcelona and he was winning titles there at Barcelona. I remember being in a stadium in Chile, Colo-Colo. It's the biggest club in Chile. He played for them, Sanchez, and it was the game happened just after a Real Madrid-Barcelona, and they had it on the big screen. And they're absolutely delighted watching Sanchez play for Barcelona. They were so proud of him. He won titles there, but he couldn't be important because it was Messi's team and Sanchez had a very specific function and he couldn't wander freely. At Arsenal, he's got the freedom most of the time. He can do what he likes, but he's not winning titles. We're coming up now to the last deal that he will sign when he's absolutely at his peak. And I think he would like those two things. He would like to win titles in a team where he can be important. Is that going to be Arsenal, or might he want to move perhaps even somewhere else in London?
Yeah.
I think he's perhaps waiting to see if he thinks that Arsenal can be fighting for the serious titles in the next few years.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Great stuff. Tim, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks
We've got to
again.
go. Tim Vickery there reporting into us from Brazil. I'd love to see Alexis Sanchez at Chelsea, actually. I think he'd be great there. But that's another story. This is TalkSport. Now, a couple of good tweets here. One from Todd, not the same Todd that we're going to talk to later on in this hour. He says, Todd here, you guys should have a camera filming your action-packed journeys. Think of the Two Mics TV.
The action-packed journeys?
I think he means our action-packed journeys into work.
Oh, I see.
You with the horrendous frustration of the cycle lanes, and me with my sort of, road rage issues with people getting all worked up about the fact that I'm not going to move.
And see, with me having to address the regular puncture problems. By the way,
could be very exciting.
I drove over a load of glass tonight in Brixton.
Why?
I don't know idea.
What's that for?
You tell me why there's a load of glass.
Well, no, but I mean, why did you drive over it?
Because I only saw it when it was 4 feet in front of me and there was a line of traffic behind me. If I'd have braked suddenly to avoid the glass, cars would have piled into the back of me.
Maybe you shouldn't.
So I selflessly, kept going.
Maybe you shouldn't drive through such dodgy areas and they're all kind of covered in glass. I mean, that's not good, is it?
It's hardly a dodgy area if it's a main artery into London. You have to drive it to get into London. Simple as that.
Well, I mean, there are plenty of dodgy areas of New York, and there were certain parts of New York you wouldn't drive through to get into Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
And maybe London has to be treated in the same way.
Yeah, but London doesn't have, a highway that goes right round it, which you can drop in and drop off.
Well, there's the North Circular Road. There's the M25.
What's the point of going to the North Circular Road if you're trying to get to the central London, you fool?
Well,
I come in a direct line because it brings me to the central London,
tonight.
you idiot.
By the way, have you seen Harry Kane with his new car?
Harry Kane with his new car?
Yeah,
no, what sort of car is it?
He's bought an F-Pace. Look.
Let's have a look.
Harry Kane buys world's greatest car.
Oh, they've probably given it to him.
No, he's bought it.
Probably a gift.
Anyway, it says, Harry Kane shares your taste. He's flaunting his £40,000 Jaguar World Car of the Year. Well, it's great, isn't it?
As I say, he's probably got some sort of arrangement with Jaguar, which he should have because he's a leading footballer in this country. That's all I can say.
Well, he could have picked any number of Jaguars, but he's picked that one.
No,
same one as I've got. And it's got the same colour as well. It's black.
Honestly, you get carried away with very, very small pointers towards.
No, it's because
your ambition.
To
sort of,
not at all. Because the only reason
with the stars.
No, the only reason I'm doing it is
I've got the same car as Harry Kane.
Yeah, because I know that it grinds your gears so much. You see, the only reason I'm doing it is because. For years, you were giving me a hard time about my old jalopy and how it was an old wreck. Because now you are the owner of the old jalopy. You don't like it. You don't like having the tables turned.
No.
How about this from David? He says, Porky's got loads of ideas. We're just waiting for a good one. Very good.
Now then, I found out something quite astonishing today.
Did you?
I am, believe it or not, okay, but you will believe it, I am one of the bravest people in the world.
Are you?
Yeah.
I thought you were a coward.
What do you mean?
Well, you've always told me you run away from violence. You don't like physical violence. If anybody starts getting leery, you're out the door.
No. All I said was I don't like having my teeth drilled unless I've got loads of, what's it called? Not cocaine. What do they put in your face? What do they put in your face?
Do you mean Novocaine?
Novocaine, that's the stuff, in your jaw.
I don't think they're allowed to give you cocaine.
I don't think they are. But anyway, I have found out...
Why are you so brave, then?
Because I had red hair as a kid.
Yeah.
And
why does that make you brave?
Because people with red hair feel pain twice as badly as other ordinary people. There's a key protein involved in regulating mammalian skin and hair colour, which relates to the gene responsible for people with red hair.
Well, you're saying you're some kind of freak.
It's the melancocortin 1 receptor. Yeah, it is, yeah.
Come again.
Melancocortin 1 receptor, which is the gene in the skin which gives you red hair and freckles.
So you are a freak, then?
I'm not a freak, I'm just special.
Special, yeah, I would say that.
It says 25% of the British population carries a mutated version of MC1R. That's the one I've just told you about.
MC1R.
The melancocortin 1 receptor. Yeah. Okay.
Careful how you say that.
Yeah. 25% of British people carry the mutated version of MC1R that causes red hair.
Yeah.
1 in 4 people as carriers. The chances of 2 people having a child with red hair along with pale skin and light eyes is about 1 in 64.
Is that right? Actually, serious question. If you have red hair and you have a child with somebody who doesn't have red hair, is it a 50-50 chance or less that the child will have red hair?
I don't know, but my father had red hair. Right. My mother didn't.
Right.
There were 3 children, and 2 of us, myself and Jill, my little sister, have red hair.
And your other one doesn't?
My elder sister had very dark black hair.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think it's all part of that gene. You know that thing they teach at school?
The recessive gene.
The gene pattern and all that kind of stuff.
No.
Anyway, it says, research has shown redheads require more anaesthetic, right?
Anaesthetic?
Anaesthetic, when they're having operations, because redheads may be more likely, it says here, to awake earlier.
So it's not really anything to do with being brave.
Well, I think it is. After anaesthesia... study in anesthesiology.
Anesthesiology, yeah.
Anesthesiology. A study in anesthesiology concludes results indicate that redheads are more sensitive to the thermal pain, and are resistant to the analgesic effects of subcutaneous lidocaine. Okay? Do you know that?
Well, I guess lidocaine is part of the Novocaine family, I would guess.
It certainly is, yeah. So volatile anaesthetic desflurane is greater in natural redheads than in dark-haired people. Theory is that MC1R...
So the story is, right, not that you're braver, not that you have a smaller threshold of pain, but that, in fact, you are less likely to be subdued by a small amount of anaesthetic, and you may need more anaesthetic.
Well, it says here...
Isn't that what it's saying?
It says here, the Journal of the American Dental Association has revealed that, as a result, redheads are twice as likely to avoid going to the dentist as people with other hair colours because they feel the pain more intensely.
Is that because they're not being given enough anaesthetic?
Well, maybe? This is why I always ask for...
This is a question for the Cullen father and son team, isn't it?
Exactly,
Mr. Cullen and son. What's going on? What is going on with the pain threshold scenario?
Yeah, Mr. Parry, just open your mouth there. This big needle. I'll just go... Yeah.
Well, has he ever caused you pain, or is he good at it?
Well, the injection he gives me before, obviously, there's any anaesthetic in my gum is quite painful. But he says I'm one of his best patients. Because
what they should do is rub a little sort of gel, which makes your gum numb before they put the needle in.
They do that. But I'm very brave. I grab the handles of the chair and I never wince or twitch or anything like that. No, I just take it.
Really?
I just take the pain.
Yeah.
So it says here...
So brave.
Caution should be taken. Australian study in anaesthesia intensive care, using a large sample size, concluded no significant difference in recovery times, pain scores or quality. Well, that's a ridiculous survey.
Well, why have you bothered reading it out?
What?
I got a tweet here from Mark. He says, I have red hair. My daughter looks like me, but has brown hair. And my son weirdly looks like his mum with my red hair.
Well, there you go.
How's that weird? Why is it weird that your son looks like his mother? Surely that's not weird at all.
No, but what I think he means is his son with dark hair has what you might call red-headed type features. You know what I mean?
He's saying his son has red hair.
His son has red hair.
But he looks like his mother.
Oh, I see.
Who doesn't have red hair.
Oh, I see. Well,
so all that's happening here is that the son has similar features to his mother.
But he's got red hair
he's got
from his
different
father.
colour hair.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Well, that's not particularly weird.
I think that's quite interesting.
Fergal says, Porky's that brave, he's afraid to eat eggs.
Well, that's not a fear. That's just a natural allergy, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dazza says, I concur that Parry's brave. Having to look in the mirror at that ugly mug every day takes courage.
Very funny. Thank you very much indeed. So all I'm going to do is send me insults. That's fine. It's like water off a duck's back, okay? Not a problem at all.
Mark's threatening to send some haggis down, I think.
Hey?
I think Mark is threatening to send me down some haggis.
Really?
He's got a friend who's a haggis butcher.
That's great. Good.
Which would be great.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Now then, what are we doing for Easter?
What?
What are you doing for Easter?
What am I doing for Easter? Well, it happens to coincide with a birthday in the family, so there's a bit of a birthday celebration, and then there will be quite a lot of lamb eaten, I think. There's plans to have 2 lots of lamb.
Yes.
When we were down in Dorset with our friends,
yes,
they cooked a very nice lamb.
Sounds lovely.
Called a lamb shawarma, I think it was, which is basically a slow-cooked leg of lamb.
It's not like with a curry, though.
It's not like quite curryish, but it's very sort of...
I wouldn't like curry, not an Easter. No, I want...
Well, hang on. Well, calm
real
down.
English lamb.
All right, calm down.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be having a leg of lamb for Easter,
but
we will also have the kind of slightly more exotic lamb, possibly on Monday, or possibly on Sunday, I'm not sure yet.
Right.
Which is going to be with all the kind of Mediterranean-type trimming, which will be very nice.
Okay, sounds good.
If you've ever been to Greece, I'm told, at this time of year, you see people walking around carrying lambs, like literally carrying them home.
Well, people in Greece are so poor now, I doubt that very much indeed.
Well, no, they do it apparently it's a very big Easter thing.
Well, I'm sure it is, but everybody in Greece is broke.
Yeah, but lambs don't cost much, do they?
Well, they do. I mean...
Well, no, they cost a lot here, maybe, but not in Greece.
Unfortunately, Greece is such a basket case economically. The poor people there are literally scrabbling through bins for, scraps and all that kind of stuff.
Where'd you hear that from?
I know. I get my individual reports from countries in Europe and that sort of thing.
Well, you get the Greek desk reporting into you every morning, do you?
No. I mean, you make yourself aware of things that are happening in the world. I know you don't.
Well, I haven't seen any
stories.
No, I read many newspapers. I read many stories.
No, you don't. You never read newspapers anymore. No, you don't.
I read them
you
all the
read
time.
on your electronic tab.
My electronic tab?
Yeah.
Do you mean my iPad?
Yeah.
What do you think my iPad has on it?
Well, it doesn't have newspapers on it.
Of course it does.
No, it doesn't. It has
I have
words
the iPad version of the Times. I have the iPad version of the
They're
Sunday
images.
Times.
They're not newspapers.
Of course they're newspapers.
They're not newspapers. A newspaper is a physical product made up of newsprint.
Well, the next time we talk to Eleanor Mills from the Sunday Times, who's the editorial director, when you say to her, basically the iPad version of the Sunday Times is not a newspaper, see what she says.
She will say it's not a newspaper. No. You're right. It's our electronic version of what's in the Sunday Times.
Rubbish.
Sunday Times is one of the most attractive newspapers in the world for the package that it's made up of on a Sunday.
And the iPad version is one of the most successful because it's also terribly well done.
Yes, I agree, but it's not a newspaper.
Yeah, it is a newspaper.
It's not a physical product.
The Sunday Times is a newspaper in any form.
As an essence it is, but its product in newsprint is quite distinct from images on an iPad.
Somebody hand me a baseball bat.
No.
This is Talk Sport. Martin in Worksop says this, Mr. Parry is spot on. I've got red hair and the dentist scares the living Christmas out of me to the extent that I don't go to the dentist unless it's to have a bad tooth extracted.
Well,
I'm now 55 and have no teeth.
Oh, I go for dental work, but my dentist is a brilliant man. He's a very, very highly qualified man. He's a dental surgeon as well as a dentist.
Is this Mr. Curran or his
Mr. Cullen. Mr. Cullen, yeah. He's terrifically well qualified. Yeah. He graduated at Birmingham and he's been getting degrees in all sorts of things ever since.
Oh, yeah.
And when I say to him, "Look, please give me the maximum." He gives me the maximum. He's a great guy.
Yeah, okay. Well, apparently he's going to have...
trust implicitly.
According to Jim, he's going to have a lot more customers coming his way because he says, I think Porky's dentist might get a deluge of appointments now that Porky's revealed he gives cocaine as pain relief.
No. I said, what is it called? And it's Novocaine. It's
Novocaine, obviously, yes.
Is it still Novocaine?
It is,
I've never heard it referred to as Novocaine recently.
Well, I think that's what they call it. It may have the AIN, the E at the end. At the end, it may be something slightly different. But, I mean, that's the kind of anaesthetic type family, isn't it? We, the listeners, are the brave ones, says somebody calling himself D-Mans, I think.
Yes.
He says, we're the ones who have to face Porky Vision every week.
That's right, absolutely. Now, there's a nice one here from Michael Thompson, clearly a man of breeding and understanding.
Oh, yeah.
He said, I'm just only catching up on the two Mikes' 1-0 defeat for Leicester.
Yeah.
Real to win in Munich. My goodness me, Porky really knows his stuff, and that's a fact.
All right.
Because, of course, I did predict that Real Madrid would win in Munich and that Leicester
although somebody
would lose
pointed out
1-0,
that you
which was a brilliant prediction.
Certainly the Leicester one was very good, but certainly there are people who have said that you said that Real Madrid would win by 2 clear goals, which of course they didn't. So you weren't completely correct.
Oh, crikey, I'm awfully sorry. I got it slightly wrong, but mostly right.
I'm just pointing that bit out. Now, what do you make of that? That is a picture of the cyclone in New Zealand yesterday.
Golly.
It's like a massive sort of water spout style tornado.
Looks like a mushroom from a nuclear explosion at sea.
Yeah, but Paul has tweeted this picture today,
yes,
by contrast, to say, look, everything's returned to normal.
My God.
So doesn't it look lovely?
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Now, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
Because, as you know, due to your previous performances, shall we say, in the Porky Quiz, this week you have said that you wish the Porky Quiz to be selected from Trivial Pursuit cards.
Yes.
Where are those Trivial Pursuit cards?
They are being kept secure until the moment the quiz starts.
By whom?
People who,
I think everyone is entitled to know. I mean, I'm very open about what happens where when the independent quizmasters, when the quiz starts, I am immediately handed an envelope with the questions.
Yes.
I want to know where these cards are.
In a secure place.
Well, who knows where they are?
I do.
You're the only person.
No, the people who are retaining them know as well.
Well, who are they?
They are people who have been classified as beyond reproach and...
So somewhere in this building?
Very close to this building.
Really?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Absolutely.
So they're not in this building then?
They will be delivered on time.
You've left them in the car, haven't you?
No.
You have?
No, that's nothing to do with me.
You've forgotten that they're in the car?
They will be delivered on time in...
By whom?
Well, one of those trucks that carry, like, valuables and money around and all that. They're coming in one of those.
A security truck?
Put it this way, a secure vehicle.
Well,
okay?
they won't get past the front door unless we know who they are.
Yeah, well, I've made arrangements downstairs.
Have you? So you, in secret, are getting these things transported here without anyone knowing?
I'm just making absolutely
sure. So I just want to check how we're doing this, because without anybody knowing, you are going to be delivering a series of questions which nobody has seen, according to you, apart from you and these characters that nobody knows.
No, I have made arrangements for them to be delivered. They're quite independently, nothing to do with me, but I'm
sure?
not going to allow you...
So how have you made these arrangements exactly?
Because I work at my job during the day, and I prepare for the shows in a way you don't. But I'm not going to allow you to have any access to the box of questions, because I know exactly what will happen.
Right.
You will try to fix them.
So
I'm not having that.
No, I will not fix them at all. You will see me picking a piece of paper out of one of
I will now. Don't worry about that.
You will?
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
You will see it, and you will see the question I will ask you.
Yes. Anyway,
I'm just concerned that you're just going to deliver a bunch of... Is the game sealed? Will it be sealed when it arrives?
Sealed, absolutely.
So it's going to be covered in plastic.
It will be sealed. Don't
so if it's not sealed, I will be able to reject it.
Whatever you choose to do, but I'm telling you, there was no way in the world that the questions will have been accessed by anybody, and that's why I don't want you to have them.
Just checking.
Now then, Stephen here says, "Hi guys, I was late to work tonight. Some guy in a Jag held up all the traffic in the street I was in. I waved at him in a peculiar way when I passed him in my van." So there you go. That's at least one person.
That's just somebody having a laugh, isn't it?
No, I think.
Well, why don't you check where they're from and see whether they're actually even from London?
Yeah. Look. By the way, it says here, Lyle says, "No wonder Porky needed new teeth recently. He had a blind alcoholic dentist as a child."
That's true.
Well, it's absolutely true.
Gazman is asking, have you seen this new site from NASA, Ocean World's water in the solar system and beyond? It is amazing. And it is actually rather amazing.
It is.
Have you seen this report from NASA?
A report from NASA about what?
This one about ocean worlds, water in the solar system. The story of oceans is the story of life. Oceans define our home planet, covering the majority of the Earth's surface and driving the water cycle that dominates our land and our atmosphere.
Sorry, is this leading to newspaper headlines saying, "Oh, great news! NASA hailed a new frontier last night after revealing some of the strongest evidence yet that alien life may exist."
Well,
that's a weak story to me. May exist.
What they're saying is the story of our oceans envelops our home in a far larger context that reaches deep into the universe and places us in a rich family of ocean worlds that span our solar system and beyond.
Yes.
And there's some wonderful pictures actually on this whole. Of course, you won't be able to see these because you don't have, as you call it, an electronic tab.
I certainly do.
You'll have to wait for the newspaper to publish it in a couple of days' time.
Now then, I'm going to put to you certain issues about what we get up to in our homes, OK?
Well, I don't want to know what you get up to in your home.
No,
it's a family show, this.
No, it's a family show, but I want to know how many of these things you can honestly do, all right?
And what things I can do?
Yeah, I want you to tell me, right?
OK.
This is whether or not you are capable of living on your own. Okay,
is this in by way of a sort of survivor quiz type?
Well, it's one of my social network studies. Okay, which come in my my journals. Right? Can you boil an egg?
Yes. In fact, I boiled one yesterday.
Right, okay. I would have to admit that I can't because I never have done, okay?
Oh, don't be ridiculous. Of course you can boil an egg.
No, I can't.
Anyone can boil an egg.
Well, I wouldn't know how long to boil it for. I've never eaten one.
You would guess, though, wouldn't you?
Well, I'd say 4 minutes because that's what I heard it was.
You'll be fine.
Right, can you change a light bulb?
Yes.
All light bulbs in your house now?
Yeah.
Including the ones that have a wire bracket around them that you have to release and
in my apartment, the most complicated and modern things I have a couple of strip lights underneath the kitchen cupboards, which I can do, but I tell you what annoys me is that the new versions of those that you have to go and buy, from the low voltage place, are not quite the same length.
Yeah.
So they don't quite fit.
No, I know that.
Which is very annoying. But yes, I can change the light bulb.
Do you live in a place where they have sunk the bulbs into the ceiling?
Yes.
And you have to remove a metal bracket around them to get them out?
Not true. No. In fact, I'll tell you why. Because if you don't put them in too hard in the first place, it's easy enough to screw them out. But I was taught a very good trick once because when I was doing this show years and years ago, I couldn't get one light bulb out.
Right.
And do you know what? I got a text from somebody who was a specialist in these things. He said, put a rubber glove on.
Right.
And you put a rubber glove on and you can twist it. Because you get a better grip.
Well, mine that are sunk into the ceiling have a metal bracket around them, which you have to, squeeze together and release for it to come out.
Well, mine don't have that. So.
Okay, well, light bulbs are much more difficult than they used to be.
They certainly are.
Right. Can you cook a complete meal without using a recipe?
Yes.
So can I.
Good.
Spag bol.
Spag bol, there you go.
Can you read a map when you are passenger in a car and direct a driver?
Yes.
Are you sure about that?
Of course I can.
It's not easy.
What do you mean it's not easy?
Well, it's not easy. I used to be the navigator in a rally team.
That's what you tell me. Yeah, I don't believe it.
I did.
That's rubbish. Where is the evidence for this?
Through the Kielder Forest in Northumberland.
Isn't this where you went to the pub? You parked the car up, went to the pub.
I did on one occasion, but I did quite a few rallies.
Really?
And I know all the expressions,
like
hang
what?
a left.
Hang a left.
Yeah, hit a 90 right, all this kind of stuff.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's called map reading.
Is it?
Right, here's the next one, which I bet you can't do.
My father was a navigator. Did I ever tell you that?
Your father?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was a navigator in a Lancaster bomber.
Yeah, but he was
It's not quite the same thing as going around
if you're
the
a navigator,
countryside.
if you're a navigator, you know how to read maps. And when I was a child, he used to teach me how to read maps.
Yeah, really? Yeah. Okay.
Try not to be abusive to the man who's dead.
Right. Can you sew a button on?
Yes, if I have to, but I don't bother.
Yeah, well, I can, easy.
Yeah.
Now, can you unblock a sink?
Yeah.
How would you do it these days?
Well, it depends on what it's blocked with.
Well, it's absolutely easy these days.
I would go and buy some stuff from the supermarket which unblocks a sink.
That's exactly what I do. You go to Morrison's.
You pour it down.
Yeah.
Right, you leave it for about an hour. And
you don't have to leave it for an hour. You leave it for a few minutes, it bubbles up and clears it.
Yeah, well, it depends on how badly it's blocked.
So whenever I see, a TV programme now, like Coronation Street or something, somebody's got a plunger and all that, I think, hang on, this is 60 years ago.
Go and buy some of this stuff.
Exactly. Right, can you remove a stain from a carpet?
Well, I've had to try and remove a stain from several carpets. It never works as well as I would like it to.
Well, I told you about the red wine on the lime green carpet, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
You literally get the kitchen roll, soak it all up, then you cover it in salt, it all comes out.
Yeah, but I've had the misfortune not that long ago of spilling a glass of red wine on a very light-coloured carpet.
And did you get it all out?
And I didn't get it all out.
Well, you see, you were probably bladderated. intoxicated,
there was some of that.
Thinking properly.
There was some of that.
Yeah, well, that's a disgrace.
Right. But, I mean, I can get it mostly out.
Yes.
But, I mean,
Yeah, well, I have in my house, I have a can of, carpet spray. And it's foam, and you spray it, and then you get...
all of that's fine up to a point.
You have to get a cloth the same colour as the carpet.
Yeah, I know all that.
Move it in gently.
I know how you do it.
And then you get your
sound
very
like an expert in
expensive
this.
Hoover, and you hoover over it, and it's great.
Have you got a very expensive Hoover?
Very expensive, yeah.
What sort of Hoover have you got?
It's a new one, which is attached to the wall.
What?
So it charges itself.
Right, so is it Dyson?
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Is it?
I think it is.
Okay.
Right, very quickly.
All right, carry up.
Can you bleed a radiator?
Yes.
You sure?
Yeah, I've done that, yeah.
Without the water shooting out?
Yes,
and,
I've done
and all
that.
The
I had to do it when I lived in Wiltshire, yeah.
Can you put up a shelf?
No.
No, neither could I.
I'm not very good at that.
Can you put up wallpaper?
Not really.
I can't. I've never tried.
I mean, I have tried. I don't like doing that stuff.
Can you change a washer on a tap?
I don't think I've ever tried. I probably could, though.
No, you couldn't, honestly.
Yeah, I
couldn't.
I probably could.
The last one is, can you fit tiles?
Tiles?
Yeah.
No.
With grouting in between?
No.
Neither can I.
Of course not.
Got a ridiculous survey. You get people in to do that for you. How mad is that?
Yeah. Unfortunately, my ex-wife has married a guy who could do all the stuff that I couldn't do.
Yeah.
But, she's still not happy. This is Talk Sport.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. The Porky Quiz, of course, coming up in the next hour or so. El Muletto has sent in a picture of a very heavily armoured truck.
Yes.
Making its way towards the offices.
Yes,
which, of course, carrying these quiz questions.
Yes, good.
Ian says, Trivial Pursuit questions delivered by security. Let's hope there is no Hatton Garden type robbery going on.
Well, let's hope there's no sort of old geezer hanging around, ready to blow the doors off. You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
Well, let's hope that guy who gave me the finger or whatever it was he gave me didn't come back and try and scrape his truck along the side of my car.
Let's hope so.
Anyway, we shall see. Tom McCandless is here because there's going to be some good driving going on over the weekend and some bad driving. The Bahrain Grand Prix, of course, gets underway on Sunday. And let's talk to Todd McCandless now from Formula1blog.com. Find out how the season's going so far. Todd, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed.
Todd,
last time we spoke to you, Todd, it was just ahead of the start of the season down in Melbourne, Australia. And have you been surprised by anything that's happened, or have things worked out as everyone suspected they would?
Yeah, not really. I think, some of the testing that we saw heading into the season said that, or at least suggested that Ferrari was there or thereabouts. And I got to be honest with you, Mike, that's kind of how it's playing out.
Okay.
The first two Grand Prix had a little bit of a strategy bump. You had the first one with Sebastian Vettel winning that in the Ferrari in Australia. Then we go to China. He had a little bit of a strategy issue and got caught out by a safety car. That handed Lewis Hamilton a very decisive win. But I got to be honest, heading into this weekend, barring any strategy niggles, I think both those cars are there or thereabouts. I think we're walking into a pretty titanic battle this weekend.
Yeah, I think it is a titanic battle, Todd. It's good, though, isn't it, to see in the first two races of the season that there's going to be a battle for the podium in every game, in every race, because the danger was that if Ferrari hadn't sort of, got their act together, it was going to be a one-man season again, wasn't it, with Lewis Hamilton?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And certainly he has a new teammate in Valtteri Bottas. It's going to take him a little while to get his feet on the desk. So I think Lewis was the shoe-in, certainly, as far as the leader of that team. But if Ferrari didn't show up, we would have really just kind of a runaway title. Yeah. And even in the last couple of years, Mike, you've had that intra-team battle, which has been fine. Yeah. But what fans really want to see is that inter-team battle, right?
Of course they do, because the trouble is the battle between two teammates in the same team often ends up so bitter and so unappealing, if you know what I mean. To see two men at odds with each other and throwing caps at each other and scowling at each other because they're in the same team is a very unappealing way to make the sport attractive, isn't it?
It is, and it gets the team in the middle of the politics.
Of course it does.
Favoring who, and, and it just turns into one big petulant, romper room. So, it's much better when it's team against team, for sure.
Of course it is,
And one of the things that we talked about, of course, was the change in ownership, the sort of the moving sideways or out, if you like, of Bernie Ecclestone and the Malone crowd moving in. Any chance that we're going to see any signs of them and their new ideas in Bahrain?
I'm not sure that we will, other than I got to say that Liberty Media has opened up some of the social media side of Formula One. They started putting a lot more content on their YouTube channel, a lot more Twitter and Facebook content. It's been refreshing, and that's been good to see.
That surprises me. That surprises me that Formula One would be lacking in social media, because, I mean, you'd imagine that social media would be perfect for Formula One.
Yeah, exactly. And it really has been way behind other sports like, football and baseball here in America and basketball. So, it's picked up its game a little bit this year. But, I don't know any big drastic changes. I think right now it's really trying to secure more races, trying to secure a German Grand Prix, trying to perhaps go back to have the Turkish Grand Prix, those kind of things.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, this situation regarding the expansion of Grand Prix is going to be a worldwide political issue, isn't it, Todd? It's not necessarily where the races should take place.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And I got to say, this is a bit of a political football, Mike. One of the challenges here is Liberty Media came in, they bought the series, they were critical of how far-flung these races are in Asia-Pac. They said Europe is our focus, Silverstone is our focus, and more races in the U.S. And I'm a little confused as to why this week they were making sort of dog whistling that they had a meeting with the Turkish Grand Prix and it may come back. And the first thing I'm thinking was, how about shoring up Silverstone?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, of course, the threat is always, if the facilities aren't there, improve them. But then the real reason, of course, is how much return are you going to get on a race compared to one in Abu Dhabi? Yeah,
that's exactly right. And certainly nobody matches the attendance of the British Grand Prix.
That's right.
And you can build a $400 million circuit like we see in China, but there's a lot of empty seats over there, Mike.
Of course, there is. But then again, sorry, Mike. But then again, the government will fund it, won't they? That's what I'm saying. It's going to be so political. You know what I mean? Just for the prestige of having the Grand Prix.
But I mean, the point about Lewis Hamilton, I suppose, is as long as Lewis Hamilton is still fighting for the sort of number one spot in the world, then Silverstone's always going to be well attended, right?
Mm.
Yeah, it will be. And Lewis, certainly a three-time champ, going for his fourth this year. Lots of fans are going to be turning out. And it goes back to the beginning of this conversation that if Ferrari is there or thereabouts, the British fans are going to love to see Lewis Hamilton stick it to the Ferrari.
Yeah, absolutely right. What about Red Bull? They're doing a bit better than perhaps people expected, aren't they?
Yeah, they're doing okay. They're still, best of the rest. They're still a little ways away, a second or so off of Ferrari and Mercedes. They're not quite sure that they're going to be able to close that until they get a new upgraded engine from Renault later on this season, perhaps Canada. But yeah, they're struggling a little bit, but you never count them out.
And what about this amazing kind of development that Fernando Alonso is going to miss Monaco in order to race in the Indy 500? I mean, is that something that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Liberty Media?
I think it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for new CEO at McLaren, Zach Brown. Zach Brown, a very big fan. He's an American, loves IndyCar, and he also loves GT racing in Le Mans. And if you start to piece the puzzle together, Mike, you can see where they're trying to keep Alonso happy. Arguably one of the best drivers on the grid, if not the best, and he has not been able to be deployed by McLaren because they haven't given him a car. So his contract is up at the end of the season, and right now McLaren's trying to keep Alonso happy. A lot of other drivers, Mike, very critical of it, saying, this is the crown jewel of the Formula One calendar, Monaco. I would never miss that race. So, it's a very, very controversial move. But Zach Brown is a marketing genius, and he thinks outside of the box. And I think it's trying to keep Alonso happy.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Who's going to fill in for him, by the way? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody knows. That's the other side of the coin of this story. Certainly, the first knee-jerk reaction would be Jenson Button. I'd love to see JB back there. But again, Zach doesn't go for the obvious choice sometimes. He may make a show out of this. You could see a guy like Alexander Rossi swap IndyCar with F1 with Alonso. Who knows?
That's right, absolutely right. And Todd, am I right in thinking, as an amateur who watches Formula One racing avidly, am I right in thinking that the reason why people like Sebastian Vettel are worth 20 or 30 million pounds a year is because when they get into a Ferrari, it's not putting the best driver into a good car, it's putting the best driver into a car that then gets improved because that driver, Vettel, has such instincts for racing that he gets out of the car after every practice lap and tells the engineers and tells the designers, tweak this, tweak that, make this up, make that up. Isn't that exactly the same as what Michael Schumacher did for Ferrari?
That is exactly the point. Michael Schumacher, Ayrton Senna, these guys are brilliant at car development. They're not only brilliant world-class drivers.
That's what I mean.
They can get out of a car and tell you exactly what that car is doing and what to focus on. And that's what makes Vettel so comprehensively good. I've done hot laps in a Ferrari with Sebastian Vettel, and I got to tell you guys, I needed a diaper for that.
Yeah, sure.
I was going to say, that sounds good. And Hamilton says he thinks Ferrari's pace will give him the edge in Bahrain. So are we expecting them to win it then?
I've picked Sebastian to win Bahrain because I think it's a track that might suit Ferrari. One key thing, and not to get too technical, but this year's Ferrari seems to be able to follow cars better than this year's Mercedes. Mm-hmm. So I think if Vettel can stay there on the tail, if he's behind Lewis or if he's just ahead, I've picked him to win, but that's not a foregone conclusion because Lewis Hamilton had an incredible weekend in China, and he looks on it this season. He wants that title.
He certainly does. Indeed. Well, listen, Todd, it's going to be very much something to watch over the weekend. Of course, the Bahrain Grand Prix will be bringing you all the thrills and spills right here on Talk Sport as it happens. Lots more tweets to do. Don't forget the Porky Quiz.
Oh, yes.
The tickets for whatever betting slips people are making on what the odds are going to be like are rampant on Twitter. People are saying that how ridiculous is it that the security firm, which is bringing the game, we still don't even know where it is at this point.
Well, you're not going to know. You want access, not because you want to say, let's have open democracy, because you want to interfere with the questions.
I don't. Not at all.
And the answers.
I just want to make sure the questions are here and they can be looked after very carefully by the guys behind the glass.
No way, Jose.
Talk Sport.
What do you think of this?
I like this.
And what's it called?
I like this.
It's called Let's Stay Together.
Let's Stay Together, yes.
That's
it's one of those songs that you kind of recognise, that you know. I've never owned it, I don't think.
No, I've never owned it.
I don't think I've ever bought it.
But every disco I've ever been to in the whole of the world, every disco in every town, every part of the world, has always played Al Green's Let's Stay Together. And the reason we're playing that is in tribute to the man who is 71 today.
Is he?
Yeah.
Many happy returns, Al.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, he's done quite a body of work, but I mean, that's probably the best known one, isn't it?
Well, he was a great soul singer, wasn't he? You know what I mean? And all that kind of stuff. And by the way, what an historic day it is for us as former citizens and residents of the United States of America.
Well, I was never a citizen, to be fair.
Well, we were citizens of the country as when we were working there. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Citizens of the world, so to speak, but based in the US.
Yeah.
Because, of course, in 1865, Abraham Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth. Yeah, he was.
Well, it's not something you commemorate, is it?
Well, of course you do.
No, you don't.
It's memorable.
No, you don't commemorate somebody getting killed.
Have you ever been to that theatre?
I don't think so, no.
Is it the Ford Theatre?
In Washington?
Yeah, Washington, D.C.
No, I don't think I ever went there, no.
Yeah, I think I've been there. I think I have.
He emerged from behind a curtain or something, didn't he? Lincoln was in a box.
Yeah, that's right. He emerged from behind a black curtain on the staining in the box, pointed up, boom, and that was it.
Right.
First president to be assassinated.
Right.
Sadly, not the last.
No, indeed. Now, I've got a couple of messages that I should have read out earlier this week. One from actually Tuesday, and it's from Mark. He says, can you wish my partner Alison a happy 42nd birthday tonight? We've been to 3 of your shows, and I bought her a special present. She's a lucky girl, and guess what he's bought her?
What?
A whole collection of Porky scratchings.
Oh, really?
She's going to love that. So, I mean, given that her birthday was on Tuesday, you may have eaten them all, but I hope it all went well and she hasn't kicked you out.
That's Alison.
Yes.
Alison, very happy birthday this week, we'll say, and I hope you enjoyed the old Porky scratchings, which I'm told, by the way, are more porky and softer on the teeth than any of the pork scratchings that anybody's ever tasted.
Well, let's not turn it into another commercial.
I don't want to plug them. No.
We're not allowed to plug them.
No, we're not doing that. That's against rules.
Believe it or not, there's a guy about to come on the show called Paul, who is the very same cab driver that spoke to me earlier in the evening.
Oh, excellent, good.
So I'm going to talk to him in a sec, but just give me one more chance to read this out. This is from Andy, who's up in Fife, and he says, he never misses a podcast, hasn't since we started doing them, but could you please get Porky to mention my mother, Christine Johnson, who's been an avid Everton fan since the 60s. Right. She was in love with Graham Sharp, Alan Ball, and Big Neville Southall, hands like shovels. Try and see, please, whether you can just say hello to her, because she would love it.
And Christine Johnson. And it's her birthday?
I don't think
just
she says
pay
it
tribute.
Is. She just wants to
Christine,
mention.
I just want to say that it's a real pleasure to have got to know you through your, is it a husband, son?
Son,
through your son, Andy, who's dropped us a note. And we Evertonians stick together, and it's delightful to know that you have such fond memories of so many Everton heroes, and thank you also for listening to the Two Mics. You are a very valued listener.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And I'm sorry that old MG is now trying to stop me talking about it.
Well, because you've been going too long.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, Christine, you are a great person.
All right, we've got more stuff to do.
You are a very great person.
Paul is a West Ham fan, but he's a cab driver as well. We do like a black cab driver. Yeah. He was involved in the incident I was referring to earlier, and he was very calm and sort of smooth about it.
Thank God for that.
And I'm sure he will tell you that so was I. Paul, very good morning to you. Thanks for ringing in.
Yeah, morning, Mike. How you doing?
Yeah, very well. Much better now. I don't know if you heard the start of the show, but I was explaining how sort of bemused I was. I didn't think I was in the wrong, but everybody else seemed to think I was in the wrong, including a load of people who were sort of barrelling down the street towards me.
No, Mike. I've just rung up to exonerate you from any blame of bringing the whole of Southwark to a grinding halt.
Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but surely here's the situation. You know, I mean, I come up Hatfields every night, right? Now, most nights there's never anything coming the other way, and generally speaking, if there is something coming the other way, they will stop, and if I'm sort of halfway up past the cafe, they'll let me come around. But on this occasion, that didn't happen. Why?
Well, when you've got amateurs driving around the streets of London, Mike, that don't know what to do when they come across a bit of traffic, you're going to get these problems.
Yes.
I'm sure you're aware that the car in front of me was a minicab.
That's right.
Needless to say Uber. It was probably an Uber.
Yeah.
And he probably panicked when he see your beast of a motor coming towards him, and he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
If he'd had slowed down just a little and took a little bit of time to think about what was happening, he would have realised that he could have just shunted into Isabella Street, just there on his left.
That's right.
You could have come through, and there wouldn't have been any problems. But
it would have been fine.
But Paul,
hang on, Mike. As I was approaching, I could see what was unfolding.
Yeah.
And so it was a bit too late then because he'd already caused the problems. But no, Mr. Graham was not to blame for causing chaos down in Hatfield.
Okay, well, that's the first time that he hasn't been to blame. Now, Paul, what I was going to ask you was...
It's very kind of you to defend me, Paul, but I detect a slight, shall we say, interesting use of words.
Yeah, cynicism.
Yeah.
What I would say is, Paul, as a knight of the road, which you regard all black cab drivers as being in this fine town and every other town... why do we allow bread lorries to park half on a pavement, half off a pavement at 11 o'clock at night? I mean, you know, we need action against these mongrels.
He told me I was ignorant, that guy.
Oh, well, you know, he did have a little go at me. He said to me, you shouldn't have moved, you should have sat there, and you should have let him wait, or you should have made him back up. But as you was aware, I had a fair-paying customer in the back of the taxi, and, we're trying to do a job.
Yes.
And gets people where they want to be. He was going for a kebab, by the way. So,
was he? Doing a great job as well.
Oh, is that
what
your passenger was, or the van driver?
No. Yeah, the passenger was going for a kebab,
All right.
and the van driver, obviously, he was just delivering a bit of bread. But you can't stop these people. You can't stop these people from working overnight. He got his truck out of the way as best he could, I thought. But it was the mongrel in front of me in the Uber that caused the problem.
Right, OK, so it's, I see, you've
so
identified
Porky,
the
so
blame.
you've completely taken the wind out of his sails.
No, not at all.
He was hoping that you'd be ringing up Paul to absolutely slaughter me and to give him more ammunition for saying I was a selfish driver.
Not at all.
He's never forgiven me for getting a better car than him.
Not at all.
No. Well, I was very impressed with the vehicle, Mike. You know, I was quite one of those myself. But you wasn't to blame, and you was very respectful in the abuse that you was receiving.
Hang on, Paul.
Thank you very much.
You're going over the top a bit here. Has old Mike Graham slipped you a sort of £10 fare while this has all been going on?
No, Porky. I thought he was very gentlemanly in the abuse that he...
Gentlemanly?
There you go.
This man's a foul-mouthed, loud-mouthed lout when it comes to these sort of situations.
Not on this occasion.
Usually.
Well, as one gentleman to another, I thought I'd better back the fella up. But,
that's very kind, Paul.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, I have to say as well that you were very much the voice of reason, and you were the one that made me sure that I was in the right, and also that you kept everything calm. So it's very good.
Yeah, and pick up your fee from old Mike Graham at the front door of TalkSport Towers, 6 o'clock. Okay, after he's left.
Well, you know, all us cab drivers out here are all gentlemen as well. So from one gentleman to another, well done, Mr. Graham.
Thank you, sir. Very kind, Paul, the West Ham fan and black cab driver. You can't stand it when people are nice about me, can you?
I just think that I think delusion reaches a high level when people are describing you as a gentleman. That's all.
Well,
but thank you, Paul, for ringing in.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Paul, and good luck with the rest of the night. Hope you don't get stuck behind any more of these people who don't know what they're doing on the roads.
By the way, that's an odd sort of a passenger, isn't it? A black driver stops. Hello, mate, where can I take you? The kebab shop.
Yeah. I mean,
really?
Well,
Which one? Anyone?
I know that you've never been.
For a kebab.
I know that you've never been in that situation because you claim never to have had a kebab.
I've never had a kebab,
but I've certainly taken cabs to kebab shops before.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's because you're a desperate foul eater.
No,
late
not
at
at all.
night.
Not at all. It's that if
2 o'clock in the morning, desperate for food, take me to the kebab shop.
Have you never been desperate for food at 2 o'clock in the morning? Have you never been desperate for food at 2 o'clock in the morning?
If I am, I get home in the civilised confines of my own kitchen. Yeah. Beans on toast.
Beans on toast.
Yes.
Well, that's because you don't really like food, you see. I mean, sometimes there is.
I do like food. Millions of people eat beans
Do
on
you know what
toast.
I've discovered?
But more people eat beans on toast than kebabs.
I very much doubt that, actually.
They do.
But one of the things that I've discovered is that when I head off down to Sussex, which I sometimes do on a Friday morning, there is a kebab shop not far from Greenwich, which is still open.
What time?
After 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock?
Yeah.
I remember when we were in...
the one that's in the cut shuts at about 3.
Does it? Shuts at 3. I wonder what time it shuts. It's always up when I pass it. Now, I tell you, I remember when we were in Edinburgh, for the festival last year, there were lots of places still open when I was going home at 5 a.m.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and they'd been open all night.
In fact, Emma and I stopped at one of the ones on Leith Walk, not far from where you were staying.
Exactly.
When we were on our way home one morning at about 5:30.
That's right, yeah.
And took the stuff home. It was great.
It was great, indeed.
Very, very good indeed.
Yeah.
Now, Stephen,
nice
you see
town,
again,
Edinburgh.
You have ruined people out there for thinking straight because Stephen is a suspicious and cynical man.
Yes.
Porky says, has MG paid this cabbie off in the same way that he gerrymanders the independent quizmasters?
Almost certainly.
I smell a rat.
Almost certainly.
Absolute rubbish. We only exchanged about 3 words because he was passing me on the street.
Yes.
And I put my window down to talk to him.
Yeah, that's what you
and
say.
G. O'Hara remembers that song, Let's Stay Together, is actually on the soundtrack from Pulp Fiction.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, with the lovely Uma Thurman. There's that picture.
Together.
That doesn't mean you have to sing it.
Ever. It's the good, the bad. That was at the height of the old my disco career, I suppose. Yeah, it was always a staple, you know.
Yes.
Everybody played that, and then everybody got on the dance floor, and that was
where
all the action started.
I can't imagine what the sort of the fashion sense was in those days. Probably pretty horrendous. I think.
It was flares, stack shoes, all that kind of stuff. You know, It was impressive.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Cultural.
Now, a couple of people down from Australia who are listening in have said that they've been exchanging sort of pictures of where they are. And one, David, was asked if there's any kangaroos knocking around, and he says no, they usually pass by at about 5 p.m, but our electric fence keeps them out.
Where's this in?
In Australia.
What part of Australia?
I'm not sure.
Because you wouldn't get that in like a Sydney suburb.
Perth, actually.
Perth, yeah. I've been to Perth. Perth is the most remote city in the world, don't you? I keep telling you
say that. I don't know
it's
whether
1,000 miles from anywhere else.
Is it?
And but it's a magnificent city. The Fremantle Doctor, which comes blowing up the coast.
Yeah,
from,
yeah. Are you going to tell us the same old story that you fly over this place that nobody lives in?
That's right.
And you see the dolphins and all the rest of it.
There are bits of rocks called the pinnacles, and they stick out of the ground, and no white explorer has ever been there.
Really?
No white soul has ever set foot on the ground there.
Are you sure that's true?
Yeah, the Aborigine tribes go there, and some of them are like, holy places, you know what I mean?
Okay.
For religion and all that.
All right.
Yes.
Religion and all that. It is Easter after all.
Yes.
We are the two mics.
We are.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics, and the Porky Quiz is less than half an hour away.
Yes.
And I'm led to believe that the sealed box containing the questions may well have arrived.
It has been delivered.
Excellent.
Yes.
So we can go ahead.
I just checked with security downstairs.
Yeah.
It has entered the building.
Excellent. Now, I've got a great picture to show you here. A man by the name of Alistair has sent us this great show this morning, listening whilst on the early bladderation trail in Noosa, Australia.
Right.
Now, I don't know where that is, but he's in a hot tub. How about that?
Wow.
A bottle of champagne, 2 glasses.
Why would you be in a hot tub in Australia? Isn't it hot enough?
Well, a hot tub is a nice place to be, generally speaking.
I suppose so, yeah.
But I don't know who he's got in there with him.
Because, if I was in a tub in Australia, I'd be in a cold tub.
A cold tub?
Yeah, I wouldn't be in a hot tub.
Well, maybe
it's hot enough already.
Well, it could be that he's regulated the temperature so that it's not boiling hot.
Yeah, could be.
It might just be a jacuzzi.
Could be. Got a great picture here as well from Steve the cabbie.
Oh, yeah.
And he shows me a picture of a police car escorting a van which has a sign on the side which says, "Caution, correct answers." It is, in fact, the van that has brought the questions tonight to TalkSport Towers.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm showing to you now, but you're paying very little attention.
Well, no, because I'm trying to read a tweet here from somebody who's in support of you.
Yes, thank you.
From a guy called David, who says, "Good luck in the quiz, Mike Parry.
Yeah.
The whole of Northern England is behind you."
Yes, thank you.
And he says, "Please, MG, no swapping the questions."
Thank you.
I haven't even seen the questions.
Yeah.
I haven't got any of the questions. You want to show me that picture again while I pay attention?
Yeah.
Well, go on then.
Picture. There you go, see.
So what's the picture showing? A police
escort. Showing a police escorting the van.
Yeah, but that's just a made-up picture.
No. On the side it says correct questions only.
It's a made-up picture.
By the way, talking about the north of England, there is a big investigation as to what was the pub I went to in Birkenhead.
Well, somebody named it as the George and Dragon.
And somebody else named it, I think, as the Waterloo.
Oh, right.
Or the Wellington.
So which is it then?
The Wellington, is it?
Well, I only saw the George and Dragon.
So what that begins with W?
Well, I only saw the George and Dragon as the name for it.
No, somebody very kindly done some research, so I've narrowed it down to 2.
Oh, yeah.
And he showed pictures of both, and I recognised the one that I was in.
And which one do you think it is then?
I think it was either the Waterloo or the Wellington. It was not the George and Dragon.
Oh, not the George and Dragon.
Okay. Yes.
Well, I mean, maybe the people who are in that pub, or who run that pub, or who go to that pub, could help clear it up for us.
Yes, well, perhaps they could as well. Julia has sent us one of her usual witty and amusing little illustrations of an Easter egg bouncing up and down. Because it's so excited that Easter's on the way. Why would an Easter egg get excited about Easter? It's like turkeys getting excited for Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's a chocolate Easter egg.
Yeah, chocolate Easter egg.
It's not a real one. Have you ever actually done anything with really? I mean, I know that you don't eat eat eggs of any kind.
Yes.
But did you never have like Easter egg hunts when you were a kid, like in terms of actual?
Yeah. My parents used to hide them around the house.
Yeah, but not just
on the garden.
Not just chocolate ones. I'm talking about real ones.
No. Of course,
we used to paint ours and roll them down the hill. You ever do that?
What, real eggs are you talking about?
Yeah, we used to hard boil the eggs, right?
No.
We would paint them, and we used to take them up to Hampstead Heath and roll them down the hill.
No, not at all.
That was part of the thing.
But I did like the old Easter egg hunts. I love Easter eggs. Chocolate tastes different than Easter eggs. I don't know why, but it does, doesn't it?
Well, you're supposed to bring some for my children. What have you done about that?
Those will be delivered on Saturday. Which is Easter Saturday for Easter Sunday, which is traditionally the day that you give out Easter eggs. I would not give you Easter eggs.
You're so hidebound by tradition, aren't you?
Excuse me. I would not give you Easter eggs for your children today.
Why not?
Because they might make themselves ill by eating for the next 3 or 4 days. And also, it would interfere with the religious observance of the fish that you're going to give them today, Good Friday.
I'm not giving them fish today.
What do you mean?
Why should I give them fish?
I thought you were bringing children up as Christians.
No, they're not Christians.
They're not Christians.
They're not even baptised.
Well, are they pagans?
Yeah, they're not anything.
Oh, well, that's
you find that strange?
Well, I mean, to have such little recognition and direction in life is pretty typical of the lackadaisical attitude you take to your own life. Do you have to subject your children to that?
What is pretty typical is the sort of thing that people like you do, which is to be a hypocrite and pretend that you're some kind of Christian and then don't live a Christian life by any way, shape or form.
I do.
Well, what do you do? What was the last thing you did that was in any way Christian?
I've been sent a picture of ducks on the Missouri River.
That's nothing to do with being a Christian.
In recognition of the fact that, worldwide now I have a reputation for protecting wildlife.
Actually, you don't. Ducks. You have a reputation for feeding bread to ducks, which is universally now slammed as cruel and unusual punishment.
No. I've got everything right in that respect. Don't worry about that.
Are you sure?
No problem.
I'm not worried about it. Dave says this. It's my dad's 60th birthday tomorrow, Friday. Can you wish him a happy birthday? He loves the show.
All right, Dad's 60th birthday. Sorry, what's that?
Dave from Chelmsford.
Dave from Chelmsford.
Yeah.
And what's his dad's name?
He doesn't say what his dad's name is.
And is tomorrow today or tomorrow?
Tomorrow today, as in Friday.
Right, OK. So Dave's dad, who's 60, very happy birthday today. If your birthday's on Good Friday, you truly are the blessed one.
You think?
Oh, well, of course you are.
Well, not necessarily.
I think so.
Have you ever seen those people in the Philippines who go and actually get crucified?
I don't like watching that. It's rather distressing, to say the least.
They call themselves Christians, and they do it because they believe that they are somehow showing themselves to be willing to be, put through pain.
Yeah, but
for their faith.
They do actually have nails knocked through the palms of their hands into a cross made of wood.
Do you remember Dominic Diamond?
Dominic Diamond, yeah, I remember him, yeah.
He went out there to do it. He went out with a film crew from Channel 4, I think.
Oh, yes.
And he got all the way to the Philippines and was prepared to be nailed to a cross.
Yes.
And then chickened out.
Well, the last minute said, you're not putting those nails through my palms.
Well, I think you would, wouldn't you?
Well, that's a disgrace if that's what happened. I mean, it's all very well saying, would you do it? Well, if I told people I was going to do it, I would do it. You'd have to. You shouldn't pull out.
No, I mean, he couldn't go through with it.
Well, that raised a few questions. I think I once nearly gave that guy a job. Is he still writing as a sort of journalist?
No, he lives in Canada now.
Lives in Canada?
Yeah, he's on the radio in Canada.
Oh, is he? Yeah. He does radio shows?
Well, of course he does radio shows. That would have been where you found him.
Well, no, he came to me and said that he was great, and I couldn't quite figure it out.
Well, he was great. He did some very good radio shows. He also did he hosted a show about gaming.
Oh, did he?
Way back when, before gaming was even that trendy.
Do you know what? That's quite interesting, because gaming is a huge part of, believe it or not, the 24-hour cycle on TV these days.
The 24-hour cycle? How do you mean?
Well, sometimes when you get home late, you switch it on. There's an awful lot of stuff available.
Yeah, but that tends to be sort of betting type games. I'm talking more about sort of video games. And
I see. Yeah, I see what you mean. Right, now then, I'll tell you what I was going to talk to you about. Did you realise that the annual bill for Britain's, sort of bar tab is £24 billion?
What do you mean, the bar tab?
Britons have spent a record £24 billion on drink in pubs, bars and restaurants in the last 12 months.
Is that right?
£24 billion.
So that's £2 billion a month.
$2 billion a month, yeah.
By my reckoning.
Sales of alcohol consumed outside the home were 428 million higher than the previous year.
And what does that tell you?
It tells you we're drinking more. We're all getting more bladderated.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Or we're just drinking more outside of the home.
Oh, here, it says here, but the volume of sales actually fell by 1.7% compared with the previous year, showing that drinkers are going more upmarket.
So they're spending more money on specific drinks.
They're buying more expensive beers, wines and spirits, OK?
Well, you're not, though, are you?
What do you mean?
Well, you're still going to Wetherspoons and not paying very much money for it.
Well, that's because it's great value for money.
No, well, I don't
doesn't mean it's cheap or rubbish or anything like that. It means it's great value for money.
Well, it is cheap, though, isn't it?
It's great value for money, mate. I don't get ripped off,
What I'm saying is you don't go and spend a bucket load of money for drinks that you can get for cheaper elsewhere. So you're not part of the trend, in other words.
No, but I am part of the...
You are bucking the trend.
I'm part of the sensible majority.
Apart from when you go to Soho and occasionally have to stump out sort of, 120 quid for 4 bottles of wine.
Well, maybe. It says here, alcohol sales saw their biggest growth in restaurants in 2016. Figures up 4.4%.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it also says that rising casual dining, as well as better drinks, helps the increase. Pub sales were up 0.6%.
I thought pub sales
I can believe all that.
I thought pub sales would be generally down because pubs are closing, aren't they? Because I've got a piece here, which you will be not surprised to know is from Cheltenham, and apparently the people in Cheltenham are up in arms because already they had 18 huge chain coffee shops in the town centre, right? As well as a whole bunch of independent cafes.
Yes.
There's now a 19th one opened, and it's the 11th branch of Costa Coffee.
Well, it doesn't surprise me.
And they're saying it's too much, we don't want it.
You see them so close to each other all the time. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
You might see one particular brand on a street corner, and then 3 blocks further down on the other side of the road, there's another one from the same brand.
Well, if you go down to the Cut, there's about 5
in
very close proximity to each other.
Yeah, but I'm talking about actually the same company.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's loads of other companies around now, but the actual same company. And I have to say, I just don't get it, because I don't even like coffee. I mean, I have perhaps 2 or 3 cups of coffee a week.
Yeah.
I might have one when I get up one day just because I fancy a change from tea or something like that. But I don't, generally speaking, like coffee very much. And I just don't think we're a coffee country. I think...
I think the figures would suggest otherwise, wouldn't they?
Well, except that, didn't we hear somebody who's a colleague of ours the other day saying, we'll only drink it because it's trendy? Well, if people are just drinking it because it's trendy...
No, Jim White said he drank it because it was trendy. He said he didn't like it.
Yeah, that's
what I mean.
I
he ate pizza, but he didn't like it.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand why he said that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I found that very odd indeed, very odd way to go about things.
Very strange.
But, that's if that's the way people want to live their lives, that's a matter for them.
You seem very distracted. Why are you sitting there reading tweets and trying to speak at the same time?
I'm not doing that. Well, I'm trying to find the tweet that some kind listener sent earlier, who thought he'd identified this pub in Birkenhead because he said, you sure you weren't being a bit unkind to Birkenhead? I would never be unkind to Birkenhead.
You said it was a terrible pub. You said it was full of awful people, and you didn't think it was a good place to go.
I didn't say that.
And you said, why would anybody go to Birkenhead? Those were your words.
I didn't say that at all.
Yeah,
I said quite the opposite. I said there's a world of difference between Birkenhead and Stockbroker Belt, Surrey.
And Kensington, actually.
But I said the people of Birkenhead are the absolute salt of the earth people, and I met some of them in that particular pub.
Did you?
By the way...
I don't remember you saying anything like that.
Our announcement about a new Two Mikes T-shirt has attracted an awful lot of interest.
It has. Well, there will be a new T-shirt out there very soon.
Yes.
And as soon as it's out there, we will be putting it on the website.
And is that available in the store on our website?
Not as yet, but it will be very shortly. It will be very shortly.
Yes.
And Philip's asking for updates on the NHL playoffs. The Capitals game's in overtime right now.
Nobody cares.
We'll give you some when it come back.
Nobody
this
cares,
is Talk
mate.
Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. The Porky Quiz is no more than about 10 or 15 minutes away. The delivery company has delivered the sealed packet of cards. They are now in the hot little hands of the people next door. They will not be unsealed until the moment the quiz actually begins, and that will be getting underway, as I say, in about 10 or 12 minutes. There are some NHS bits of news to bring you, but not as yet. So just in case you want to keep up with the Stanley Cup and the playoffs.
Which I don't.
There's some ice hockey on behind you.
Ice hockey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you never go to see any ice hockey when you were in America?
No, I did go and see it in Moscow once with Peter Hitchens.
Did you?
Yeah, it was quite amazing, actually.
I bet it's quite brutal over there.
Well, it's one of the only... It was still when communism was in vogue, so to speak, in Russia. And so the ice hockey, because they had a national team, was one of the few things that the population were encouraged to go and see.
Yeah.
So they went there with great enthusiasm, fired up on vodka and whatever you eat with vodka, like...
Caviar?
No, they don't eat caviar, no.
Well, they eat caviar in Russia, don't they?
Well, rich people do, but poor people eat it's like broken up chips and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Potatoes
stuff in the mouth. Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Bellinis.
Bellinis, are they?
Well, the Bellinis are like those little pancakes. Did you ever have those? I once went to a Russian cocktail party.
Yes.
When I was in New York.
Yes.
And I always thought it was a bit of a bizarre sort of thing because it wasn't so much run by the Russian embassy.
Where was this? In New York? Yeah,
it was in New York. It was up on the Upper East Side somewhere.
Yeah.
Beautiful apartment overlooking the Central Park sort of area.
Absolutely.
Just before the Metropolitan Museum. And it was run by these kind of Soviet dissidents, but very wealthy Soviet dissidents.
Yeah.
And they served horseradish vodka.
Oh,
amongst other various different flavours.
Oh, I've had strawberry vodka, banana vodka,
and it was great. But they had people walking around with these blinis, which were like these tiny little pancakes, with sour cream and caviar on them.
Very nice.
And basically everybody was just getting bladderated, and these people were sort of tapping up loads of journalists to see whether they wanted to do any work for them.
That's right.
And it was all a bit mysterious, I have to say.
Oh well, it's a very mysterious world. Behind the Iron Curtain was a very mysterious world indeed. I don't know how I survived my trips to Russia because. soon after you get there, you realise that they drink vodka in the same volumes as we in the West drink wine.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting at the dinner table and you think you're drinking a glass of wine, you're not. You're drinking a similar-sized glass of banana-flavoured vodka.
Right.
And
do they not drink wine as well, or do they just drink vodka?
Well, whenever you ask for a wine, it's a kind of, sorry, what? You want wine at the table? Yeah. Well, as well as, vodka? Yes, please.
Yeah.
No, go and get one. But it'll take 10 minutes for them to come back.
Yeah, right.
No, you'd be delighted to know I've found the communication from Carl.
Well, I'm delighted on many levels.
Yes.
One, because now that you've found it, you'll stop looking for it, which will start to distract you.
Carl says... Hi, Porky and MG. I think I've narrowed it down to either the Waterloo or the Georgian Dragon. Right. So I will show you first a picture of the Georgian Dragon.
Okay.
That is the Georgian Dragon.
That's the Georgian Dragon. God, that looks hideous.
It does look hideous.
That looks awful.
Now, I think that was closed.
Right.
I think I walked past that to find out that the doors were barred. Can you see two little white notices in the window?
Yes.
I think they said this pub is now closed.
It's not actually a going concern anymore.
So I passed that, and then I approached this one. And I'm certain this is the pub I went into, and this is the Waterloo.
I know it looks a little bit better.
And it's a very nice little pub, very homely in Birkenhead. It's in the middle of a roundabout, believe it or not.
Really?
So it's
in the middle of it?
Yeah.
Right, so your cars are going around
well,
it?
It's a big one-way system just outside Birkenhead Central Station.
Right.
And it eventually ends up going round to the Mersey Tunnel.
Yeah.
So, and it gives the appearance of being...
Did we not go there? When we went up that time, we went that way, didn't we?
No, we went in the new tunnel. This is the old tunnel.
Oh, right, okay.
And it gives... The effect that you're in the middle of a roundabout. In fact, you're in the middle of a one-way system which whips around and takes traffic down into the Mersey Tunnel.
So you're not like on a traffic island?
Well, to get there is difficult. You either go on an underpass or you do what I normally do, and that is, wait until there's a gap in the traffic, then sprint across 4 lanes.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's very dangerous.
Yeah, it is dangerous, but it's quicker.
It's the sort of thing that could cause an accident.
And I have to say that the people in here and the lady behind the bar served me a pint of very nice bitter and all that. Were very pleasant people, very nice people, very good Birkonians. That's all I can say.
Okay.
So thank you for your hospitality at the Waterloo,
so
and thank you to Carl for pointing that out.
You want to take that back then about why would anybody want to go to Birkenhead?
I've never said that in my life.
Well, you did, because you said you weren't meant to go there because the only reason you went there was because the train stopped there.
That's
and
right.
you had to get a bus.
That's right.
Which was non-existent, and you then had to get a cab.
That's right. Yeah.
So I've got a very good recollection of what you said.
Yeah, but I didn't say anything derogatory about people of Birkenhead. I wouldn't. My mother comes from there,
well,
so why would I do that?
That's why I was so surprised.
Well, exactly, and that's why I wouldn't do it.
I see.
Yes,
all right.
You must have misinterpreted me.
Did you see what was going on in Pyongyang today?
Pyongyang?
Because my beloved leader, Kim Jong-un, had got lots of people very worked up on the basis that they thought something massive was about to happen in Pyongyang.
And did it?
Because, well, it sort of did. The view was that a lot of journalists have been told, make sure you're ready to be taken into the company of the great leader.
Oh, yes.
Make sure that you're ready to be escorted into the downtown area of Pyongyang.
Yep.
And sure enough, there was a sort of military parade going on.
Yep.
There were loads and loads of people, thousands of people was filling the squares.
Right.
But it turned out
that
they were not issuing a new kind of edict about how they wished to take on the West and send nuclear missiles
So what were they doing?
over to Japan. They were not actually launching any kind of new weaponry or anything like that. They were, in fact, opening a new street.
A new street?
A new street.
Yeah.
That was it. That was what all the fuss was about. And their argument was the reason that we are very happy and the reason that we are proving that we are fighting the dreaded, horrible West people is because we can still have an economy that is booming and we can open a new street.
Is it such a big thing to open a new street then?
Apparently so.
Pyongyang?
Apparently so.
Wow.
The fact that they've opened a new street is massive news there.
Was there anything in particular in this street? I mean,
there was some skyscrapers,
a shopping centre, all that kind of stuff?
Well, not really, because they haven't got anything to buy.
Yeah.
So they've got some new buildings and some new offices and stuff like that, but it was literally the opening of a street.
Yeah,
it was quite remarkable.
Well, I mean, instead of opening streets in Pyongyang, shouldn't the great leader be providing a bit more food for people to stop them having to eat the bark off trees in parks?
Well, I mean, they all looked as if they were reasonably healthy and they were well fed, and they showed, the correspondents who were from the West are taken around and escorted, and they were shown a classroom which looked full of very healthy kids, a classroom which looked full of all sorts of good things that they were being taught, which of course it may not be the case everywhere, and all the people who were kind of cheering on the great leader all looked pretty well fed. They all looked quite happy. So it's a fascinating place. I still think we should go there.
To Pyongyang.
I think we should take a trip to Pyongyang.
If I had a choice, anywhere to go in the world, Pyongyang would be at the very bottom of that list.
Don't you think it would be educational for us, though?
No,
and
not
maybe
at all.
we could help to sort of, forge ties in
I
some
doubt
way.
it. I
Well,
doubt
that's
it.
my suggestion.
If I could relieve the pain and the boredom and the sheer terror of living in Pyongyang, I would go, but I don't believe that I could have any influence on a guy who is so set in his immoral and brutal ways as, I always forget the leader's name, what is it?
Kim Jong-un. How can you forget his name?
Kim Jong-un.
How can you forget his name?
Kim Jong-un?
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's not the name that I carry in the forefront of my head.
Is that right? Now, what do you think of Tommy Cannon?
Tommy Cannon?
Yeah.
Of Cannon and Ball?
Yes.
Why, what's he done?
Well, they want him to go on Strictly, and he'd become the oldest contestant.
How old would he be? Is he in his 80s?
He is 78.
78, that's quite a good age.
Well, it's a very good age. But the reason I ask you the question is because, bizarrely, you may find this strange.
Yes.
I don't know whether he's following you, but I looked on my Twitter account the other day, and he started following me.
Really has?
Tommy Cannon.
What's the famous expression that emerged from his career?
From Cannon and Ball?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Rock on, Tommy!
Oh, was that theirs?
Yeah, that was Cannon and Ball.
Oh, okay.
And rock on, Tommy!
Well, he's following me, look.
Let's have a look.
He's only got 10,800 followers.
Okay, which one is he the big guy or the little guy?
He's that guy, the little guy, I think.
Let me have a look. That's him. Rock on, Tommy!
Tommy Cannon.
Tommy Cannon.
Ball was the taller one, I think,
Ball
wasn't he?
was the taller one, that's absolutely right. Yeah, I met him once somewhere.
Did you?
I can't remember where it was. But
In fact, it says Rock On Tommy in his Twitter. It says entertainer, father, husband, half of Cannon and Ball, Rock On Tommy.
Rock on, Tommy.
Represented by Q Talent.
Yeah, well, see, there you go. Excellent. Well, that's good. And
so maybe he's a fan of the show.
Maybe he's a fan of the show, and if he is, then you're very welcome. Now, talking about fans of the show and all that, I've come across a remarkable piece of
time, by the way.
Well, I'll tell you about this probably in a minute or two, but a remarkable piece of artistic endeavour in which people are going to the Antarctic, and part of the artistic endeavour is to suffer from frostbite.
What? Deliberately?
Deliberately.
Why?
I've no idea, but they're walking around in bare feet.
All right. Doesn't that mean you lose bits of your toes and things, though?
Well, I always thought it did, yeah. Yeah, I always thought it did. But I don't know why, but intrepid artistic endeavour combined with profound seasickness, lusty antics in the ship's bar, because they go on an icebreaker to get there, and a dressing down after an artist relieved himself on the ice were all part of this mission by a group of artists. But it also included...
deliberately getting frostbite?
Deliberately walking in, 0 minus temperatures in bare feet to experience frostbite.
How bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound very weird. Well, let's come back to that because we are now, I have to tell you, at that juncture of the show where we're about to enter Porky Quiz territory.
Where are the questions?
This is Talk Sport.
Talk Sport.
And it's in!
A diving header at the end of a 50-yard run.
From the root to the tip.
Talks.
And you are currently not on Facebook. All you've got to do is follow the two mics on Twitter and you will find the link there. Now, here are the questions which have been delivered by Mr. Dave
security
Levine.
wagon.
Trivial Pursuit questions.
Yes.
I'm opening the box. You can see...
Don't seem to be many there.
It's in front of me here.
Yeah.
There are 3 sealed packets.
Right, okay.
One seems to be smaller than the other 2. I'm not quite sure why that would be.
Yes.
Now, do you want to pick one of these 3?
What categories are in those 3?
They've all got categories.
Sure.
I mean, they've all got different colours, right?
Right,
Which is
okay.
What we do. So normally what we would do is there's 6 categories.
Yeah.
There's blue, there's magenta, there's yellow, there's purple, there's green, and there's orange. So the categories are geography, entertainment, history, art, literature, science and nature, sports and leisure, la-di-la. I don't know why one is smaller than the other 2.
Give me a packet. The top one.
You want that one? So you're going to open that one?
I'm going to examine it.
Oh, okay. It hasn't been opened, I can tell you.
Okay.
You're the only person that's seen any of these.
Yeah, okay. I will accept that this is sealed for now.
Yes. I mean, you can open it if you want.
I will allow you to open it, okay? As you're the quiz...
Master, say it.
Well, I was going to say quiz master, because the quiz master is supposed to be the people who set the questions, as you are the adjudicator.
Yes, and what we have to do in order to make it fair is to, rather than make it 10 questions, make it 12.
Yes.
Because there are 6 categories. You do 2 of each, right?
Exactly.
So what I will ask you to do...
is nominate a colour.
Is nominate a colour.
That's right.
And when I tell you what the colours are once more, you may wish to write this down, okay?
I'm going to.
So blue is geography.
Blue geography, yeah.
Magenta is entertainment.
Hang on. I'm doing this in shorthand because I'm trained in shorthand.
That's very good.
Blue geography, magenta.
Yeah. Yellow is history.
What was the magenta again?
Entertainment.
Entertainment, yes.
Purple is art and literature.
Purple's art and literature.
Green is science and nature.
Green, science and nature.
And orange is sports and leisure.
What's that last one?
Leisure, sports and leisure.
And what colour is that?
Orange.
Orange, sports and leisure.
Yes.
Orange, sports and leisure. Yes, I have that. And the purple one is...
the purple one is art and literature. I thought you said you had shorthand.
Of course I have. Art and literature. That's it, yeah, could. Okay, got all that, yeah, okay.
Now,
yeah.
So there will be 12 questions,
Great.
right? You can nominate which category you have the question asked in.
So I could have 2 blues to start off with if I wanted
you wish.
to. Yeah, okay.
But you can only have 2 of each.
I know that.
Inevitably, right? Now, if you get the answer correct,
yes,
you will hear this sound.
How Porky. Oh, love it.
And if you get one incorrect, you will hear this sound.
Porky, you are wrong.
You will not be hearing many of those.
Okay, right. Now, since I'm just now putting out on Twitter the place to find the link to Facebook if you want to watch it live, because we are now live.
Right.
And I've now got, as you can see, a little a collection of cards, right? You see the cards?
Yeah. They've come out of the sealed packet. So-called sealed packet.
The other 2 sealed packets are still in this box, okay? So you can still see that I have not got anything other than these particular cards. Now,
and for information for our millions of listeners, I have retweeted that link. It's now available to you on over 150,000 for 150,000 followers on Twitter.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Now, are you ready to ask for your first colour?
I am.
All right, which colour is it going to be?
We will, of course, start with blue.
Blue. Okay.
Geography.
All right, well, blue...
Colour of the sea.
All right, here it is. Blue. Which country has the longest coastline?
Longest coastline?
Yeah. And this, of course, is a geography question.
Yeah, country. Longest coastline.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. That's got to be... country with the longest coastline.
It's quite a hard one, this, I'd say.
The country with the longest coastline... Now, it's not Brazil, because Brazil has only got north, south, east, only got an eastern coast.
We've got 12 questions to get through.
Yeah, hang on, I've got a western coast. Could be America, because that's got an east coast and a west coast. Could be Australia, but Australia is not as big as America. So I'm going to have to go for, undoubtedly... coastline is all about here. Coastline.
Longest
it's not
coastline.
Russia. It's not Russia. It must be the United States of America.
Incorrect.
No!
Porky, you are wrong.
It's Canada, which apparently has nearly 4 times that of the second longest, which is...
United States.
Indonesia. The United States has only got 2 little coasts.
Well, they're both about 1,500 miles long.
Canada's coast goes all the way across the top of the planet.
No, it doesn't. It's frozen. It's not a coastline.
Well, it's still a coastline.
Actually, I would have said Canada if I'd have considered the northern coastline not frozen.
Right, you've taken way too long to do one question.
Right.
Second category is second question. Which category would you like to choose?
Yellow.
Yellow is history, okay?
Yeah.
All right, the history question is, which scientific process now standard in criminal detection was first used to convict a murderer in Leicestershire in 1988?
That is called DNA.
DNA fingerprinting, I'll give you that.
Hooray! How Porky.
Woo, woo, woo. Right,
Hooray.
next category.
Yeah. Next category is green.
Next category is green, and that would be, of course, science and nature.
Yes.
Which revolutionary substance did Leo Baekeland invent in 1907?
Revolutionary substance?
Yeah.
In when?
In 1907.
Yes, I know what that was.
What was it?
It was it's either plastic or nylon, and I would say nylon, New York, London company formed by... Yeah, I'm going to say definitely nylon.
Incorrect.
No!
Porky, you are wrong.
It was Bakelite, which was claimed to be the first
What's his
plastic. His name is Leo Baekeland.
Well, I knew that.
Well, you didn't say Bakelite,
I was going to say Bakelite.
Well, you didn't say it.
Oh, that's...
Question number 4.
Yeah.
Which colour?
Oh, I see. Orange, please.
Orange.
Yes.
Right, that will be sports and leisure.
Yeah.
Which social networking site encourages users to blog early and blog often?
Blog early and blog often.
Yeah.
Social networking site.
That's like you'll vote early and vote often, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a bit.
Yeah.
Blog early and blog often.
Yeah.
That would be social networking site.
Yes.
That would be the one, Google.
Incorrect.
No.
Porky, you are wrong.
It is Bebo.
Bebo. Never heard of Bebo.
Next colour.
Yes.
Go on.
Next colour.
Well, I'm not picking them. You are.
Magenta.
Magenta.
Yes.
That would be, of course, entertainment.
Yes.
Magenta is... hang on. Sorry, I was going to read you the answer.
Yes.
Which two colours are mentioned in the song I Can Sing a Rainbow that aren't official colours of the rainbow?
I can sing a rainbow, yeah, I know this. I know the answer to this. Just thinking aloud here, thinking aloud. One is purple, and the other one is thinking aloud. It's purple, and it's...
I have to hurry you.
Black, purple and black.
Incorrect.
No!
You are wrong.
It's pink and purple.
Well, I got purple, so I get half a point.
You want to get half a point?
Yeah.
All right, we'll give you half a point.
Yeah.
So you got 1.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Rainbow contains, of course, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet.
That's right. Yeah.
Right, next question. What colour?
We've got to go to the one that we haven't had yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which is purple.
Purple again?
Yes.
That's
no. The last one wasn't purple.
Oh, the last one was magenta.
Yes,
purple is arts and literature, isn't it?
Yes.
In which Commonwealth country did George Orwell spend his early life?
Commonwealth country?
Yeah.
Early life?
Yeah.
George Orwell?
Yes.
A Commonwealth country, you
Commonwealth
say?
country.
Now, Spain's not in the Commonwealth. Thinking aloud, just thinking aloud.
Yeah.
So, Commonwealth country would be... now, Canada, thinking aloud, I'm not saying that's the answer, is in the Canada. I think it's somewhere in Africa. So, I'm going to say... Oh, your eyes lit up then. I'm going to say, without a shadow of a doubt, this is Kenya.
Incorrect.
No!
It was India.
You are wrong.
Apparently his father was a civil servant in the British colonial government there. I thought you studied India.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
All right, next colour.
Right, next colour is going to be back to blue.
Back to blue.
Yes.
In which county is the Royal Air Force acrobatic team based?
The Royal Air Force acrobatic team?
Yes.
Also known as the Red Devils, aren't they? Are they known as Red Devils?
I can't help you.
I haven't given an answer yet. Excuse me. I've not given an answer. I'm thinking aloud.
No.
They are based.
Yeah.
They are
Where
based,
are they based?
in Lincolnshire.
That is correct.
Hooray! How Porky.
But they're not actually called the Red Devils. That would be the nickname for Manchester United.
Yeah.
They are known as the Red Arrows.
Red Arrows, that's what I thought.
All right, next colour.
Yeah. To the next colour, we'll go to yellow again.
Yellow.
Yes.
Let's see. Number yellow would be, hang on.
History.
Would be history, yes.
See you, Oaf. I know more about questions than you do.
Okay. With what is the Bristol-based company Fry & Sons credited with making the first of in 1847?
Thinking aloud here, I'm thinking about the chocolate bar. But I could be thinking about an Easter egg because it's Easter time. Chocolate bar, Easter egg. Oh, hang on. Fry's Turkish Delight, which is a favourite of mine as a child. So what's the question again?
Hang on.
Yeah.
With what is the Bristol-based company Fry & Sons credited with making the first of in 1847?
Yeah, the chocolate bar.
Correct.
Hey! How Porky. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Okay, next colour. You've now got 3.5.
Yes.
Out of 8.
Okay, next colour is going to be green.
Green.
Yes. Science and nature.
Which online short messaging service was created by Jack Dorsey?
Short line.
That's science and nature.
Yeah. What's the question again?
Which online short messaging service was created by Jack Dorsey?
That must be Twitter.
Is that your answer?
No, I'm thinking aloud.
All right.
So it's.
You have to hurry you.
It's definitely not Morse code because.
Morse code.
Yeah, it's not Morse code. I'm thinking aloud.
So hurry up.
So it must be. I'm going to say Twitter.
Correct.
Hooray! How Porky.
All right, getting down to the last 3 questions.
Yes.
Which colour, please?
Colour now orange, please.
Orange is sport, isn't it?
And leisure, yeah.
In 2009, who did Roger Federer beat in the men's singles final at Wimbledon to ensure a record number of Grand Slam titles?
That would have been in 2009. That would have been Nadal.
What?
Nadal.
Is that your answer?
Yes.
None. Incorrect.
No.
You are wrong.
It's Andy Roddick, the American.
Andy Roddick.
Yeah, I think that was his last Wimbledon, actually.
Poser.
Next question. What colour, please?
Next question is...
I haven't been checking that you've only been doing 2 of each,
No. Magenta.
Magenta. Right. So what art gallery has branches in London, St Ives and Liverpool?
I would say that is the... Thinking aloud. Sugar is made by Tate and Lyle. Tate.
Correct.
Tate! How Porky. Woo!
All right, you now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5.
This is record territory.
You haven't reached 50% yet.
Yeah, go on.
So to reach 50% and slightly more, what is the final colour?
The final colour is, of course, the one we haven't done is magenta, isn't it?
You are wrong.
Magenta?
Yes. Isn't it?
We've not just done a magenta. We're just supposed to be keeping track of this.
Yeah, OK. It's purple.
You think it's purple?
Purple. Oh, no, because we said that you're purple. Green is science and nature. Orange? Is it orange?
Well, I don't know. I've not been keeping track of it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You're supposed to be keeping track of it, otherwise I have to disqualify you.
OK, yellow. It was yellow history. We haven't done that, I don't think.
No, you've done 2 yellows,
right,
I'm told.
Okay. Well, which one haven't we done then?
Well, surely you're supposed to keep a track of it.
You know, isn't there a referee round here? I can't. I'm too busy thinking.
We think it's purple.
Purple, OK.
All right. American writer Jerry Siegel and Canadian artist Joe Shuster created which fictional character in the 1930s?
1930s?
Yeah.
I would say that would have been, thinking aloud, Superman.
Correct.
Hooray!
Howie Porky.
Woo! This is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant.
Well, it's not brilliant. It's 6.5 out of 12.
No, but Bakelite I should have been given because
no, you didn't say it.
I knew Bakelite was plastic.
No,
I said plastic or nylon.
You have done the same as you do on every quiz.
No.
Roughly 50%.
No.
Slightly less, actually, because I gave you an extra half a point for getting one wrong.
I said plastic or nylon, right. And I put nylon because it was closer. And the other one was...
you got it wrong.
The other one was, I knew that the longest coastline was Canada... But as the top of Canada is permanently frozen, it doesn't qualify as a coastline.
Well, you can argue
it's as simple as that.
You can argue with the people who make the quiz.
Yeah, well, I can't because they're not here, can they?
Well,
they live under anonymity.
They're not the independent quizmasters.
Canada coastline, which is accessible.
These are questions from Trivial Pursuit, which you asked for.
Canadian.
These are not questions put together by the independent quizmasters.
Canadian coastline, which is accessible. I look at it like this: a coastline is accessible to a boat.
Why are you arguing with the makers of Trivial Pursuit?
And 2/3 of the Canadian coastline is not accessible.
Why are you arguing with the makers of Trivial Pursuit?
Because they are blinking juice heads.
So they're idiots as well.
They're juice heads.
So everybody's an idiot apart from you.
Juice heads.
The mark.
I've admitted to being a loser.
So a true
narcissist.
I've
not admitted to being any loser at all. I got over 50%. That's a grade A in anybody's language.
It's not a grade A.
And it should have been 8.5. As listen, I get the verdict from the millions of listeners later.
Whining old git.
And it will be a very positive verdict. I will be. I tell you what. I'll be a hero of a lot of people tonight.
6.5 out of 12.
No.
Well, the Porky Tribe will think you've done very well because they're all morons as well.
It should be 7.5 or 8.5 at least.
This is Talk Sport.
Yes, it is. Steve the cabbie says, I smell a dirty rat. Tactics. No way is Porky that clever.
He got 6.5 out of 12. It's not exactly exemplary.
But I explained why 2 of the answers, which I would have got, were inaccurately worded. Because the Canadian coast is not available.
Listen, you can't have it both ways. You cannot ask for a Trivial Pursuit series of questions and then complain about those questions as well.
And I knew that Bakerloo, the guy you asked me about, founded Bakelite.
Bakelite's name was not Bakerloo.
Yeah, well, it was Baker something. I knew he founded Bakelite.
Well, why didn't you say that?
Bakelite was, in fact, what they made the early telephones of. You know that, don't they?
Yes, I do
know
that.
A Bakelite telephone.
That's what they called it, didn't they?
But that was classified as nylon, not as plastic, and therefore I take the higher moral ground on that one as well. I'm very, very pleased with my performance in that quiz.
I'm very glad that you've got such low expectations. Adam says you're going to have to start timing his answers. I'm sure he's cheating.
No.
So a lot of people are not entirely
I'm very pleased because I claim a 75% result because of the...
You didn't get 75%. You got 6.5 out of 12.
Some of the questions were misworded.
No, I read the questions from the cards.
Well, I'm going to give you some reaction now from the audience.
Yeah,
William says, Porky, your superior knowledge has excelled you in the Porky Quiz. First-class performance. Thank you very much indeed, mate. Thank you.
Becky says, easy questions for Porky. I love that Morse code, invented in 1836, is a form of online short message service.
What?
6.5 out of 12. You said it was Morse code.
I said it's not Morse code, you see, you oaf. If you cleaned out your ears, you'd listen.
My ears are very clean, thank you.
Andrew here says... Should do Trivial Pursuit more often, at least once a month. Great fun, says Andrew. So, well, we can do that.
And here's one from Kenny. He says, I've listened to the Planks quiz for years now, and he has failed to get a 60% pass mark. Not trying hard enough.
I try very hard, Kenny, but when you know what I'm up against, the combined forces of gerrymandering,
but you see, that's
of duplicity,
that is rubbish.
Of,
you are now not only
filthy
the Donald
corruption
Trump,
within the corridors of TalkSport.
Not only are you the Donald Trump of TalkSport, you're also the Kim Jong-un of TalkSport as well.
Certainly I'm not. But anyway, keep your comments coming, please. It's nice to know that I'm appreciated so widely and so popularly out there.
Mark, who was watching on Facebook, and by the way, if you want to re-watch it, it's still on Facebook. You can find it on the Two Mics page, and you can find the link to that on the Two Mics Twitter. Mark says, what's Porky looking down all the time at? Cheat.
No, rubbish. I just seek inspiration by
looking at your notes.
No.
Well, you have notes, don't you?
No, I don't have notes.
Well, you always take pictures of the notes the week after.
How can I take notes when I don't know what the questions are going to be about?
Well,
of course, I haven't got notes.
Well, you had notes last week.
Yes, but that was because I knew it was a specific subject I'd been revising.
I see.
Right, Jamie says, why can't Porky just admit he got questions wrong? He just can't accept that he doesn't know everything. Well, Jamie, that is to my credit. What,
because you can't admit that you're ever
wrong?
No,
it's to my credit that I strive to try and find everything, to try and know everything.
Yeah, but you can't
know everything. To try and improve myself.
Yeah.
To seek excellence.
How's that going?
If you lot out there who are critical of me went out and sought excellence all the time, you'd get as good as me. Okay?
6.5 out of 10. Or 12 even. No. I mean, 6.5 out of 10 actually is better than you've ever done.
Yeah.
But it was out of 12. That's the problem. Johnny says, why is it when MG says incorrect, Porky argues the difference?
Well, I sometimes have to be very specific about it, don't I? Yeah. So there we are.
Some people are laughing at the Red Devils, saying Fellaini can fly.
Well, it's all relative. It's all relative. Anyway, Dave says, what a load of bollocks you... planks aren't that bright, you cheat. And I think he's talking about you, not me.
No, I don't think he is, actually.
I think he is.
No. Well, everybody can see for themselves. And if you didn't see it, by all means, go and watch it again. You will see that the opening of the cards was done by me. The cellophane was removed, put in the packet, and then I showed you the one packet of cards that was open. And the one packet of cards which I was asked to read numbers and questions from.
Yes.
Colour-coded by the man answering the questions.
Yes.
So I really don't see how anybody could think that this quiz was in any way gerrymandered.
Well, I feel very proud of myself having stood up to the gerrymandering operation that had been building up here, putting a stop to it, and literally performing brilliantly in that quiz tonight. Now, let me ask you this. Do you eat a lot of marmalade?
I don't eat a lot of marmalade.
I love marmalade.
But I quite like marmalade. I have some in the fridge.
It's going out of fashion.
Is it?
And within a couple of years, it might be off the shelves.
Really?
Why? Because youngsters now will not eat marmalade for some unknown reason.
My kids don't like it.
Is that right?
Funnily enough, yeah. I mean, my son and I were once in a supermarket.
Yes.
And my youngest, and he said, and we were looking at jams and things like that. And I said, "You ever tried any marmalade?" And he's like, "No, get some marmalade." Yeah. So I bought some and brought it home, and he really didn't like it.
Yeah.
Thought it was bitter.
Well,
didn't like
you see,
the taste.
When we were a kid, I looked like nothing more for breakfast before I went to school than a big plate of toast and butter and marmalade. Yeah. I loved it. But my mum wouldn't let me eat it every morning because she said, well,
So what did you have for breakfast every morning then? Did you have a cooked breakfast?
Not always.
No.
We sometimes had porridge and we sometimes had Weetabix and we sometimes had cornflakes.
Yeah.
And
Did you not have like the full English at any point?
Well, as a kid, you don't have the full English, but I mean, we would have like sausages on toast or something. You know what I mean?
I used to have sausages every day.
Yeah, I like sausages. Yeah,
love sausages.
But I loved marmalade, and I still do. I could still eat 3 or 4 pieces of toast with butter and marmalade on it. I think it's absolutely lovely.
Yeah.
But it's going out of fashion. The demand for it has gone down. For a number of reasons. Firstly, popular demand. Secondly, oranges are now very much more expensive than they were when they started making marmalade.
Really?
Yes, yeah.
That surprises me because in most cases, I mean, despite the fact that we are now flaunting, sort of all sorts of international rules and things get expensive because there are shortages, I would have thought fruit is generally more easy to access now around the world than it was, say, when you and I were younger because... you couldn't get oranges in Britain all year round when you were a kid, could you?
Of course you could.
Really?
You used to import them, didn't you, from South America and Spain, Israel.
Jaffas came from Israel, famously. But I mean, I'm talking about when you were very young, in the 50s, for example, you could not get oranges from Israel imported around the clock.
My mum still had a ration book for me when I was born.
Well, that's
amazingly.
What I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, well, that's interesting because I don't want to see marmalade disappear. So
maybe start buying loads of it.
I was going to say, I urge you all out there to get down to your supermarket, please, and buy some marmalade so it doesn't disappear. There's 2 forms of marmalade. There's smooth marmalade and there's marmalade with rind.
That's right.
I love the rind.
I quite like the rind as well.
I love it as well.
One of the things, funnily enough, that they say it's good for is cutting the grease down if you are actually eating like a fry-up.
Okay.
And if you have the marmalade, the orange cuts the grease, which is why it's a popular breakfast preserve.
I love to see a beautiful new fresh little jar of marmalade on my breakfast table in hotels when I'm eating there to finish my breakfast. After I've had the bacon and eggs, I have a slice of toast with marmalade. Yeah. Now, listen, the other thing which is worrying me, we met in a hostelry earlier this week. We had a meeting, right?
We did.
And when they served the beer, you may have been unaware of this, they tried to serve it me in 2 glass jugs.
2 glass jugs.
Yeah, and I said, I'm sorry, I don't want it in a glass jug.
What you mean? Not a? What do you mean?
Not a straight,
not a straight glass. Do you mean one with a handle?
On the handle.
Oh yeah.
And I said, I'm sorry.
Some people prefer those, don't they?
I can't stand drinking beer out of a jugged handle.
Yeah. Well, it's a pint glass, isn't it?
Yeah, I said I want a pint glass.
Yeah.
I said I'd like to lift up a pint glass and pour the beer down my throat.
I mean, there was a time when that was all you got your beer served in.
Well, anyway, let me tell you this.
Yeah, hurry up.
As a result of researching the glass situation in bars, very soon you won't be able to get a glass with a stem on it. All glasses will have flapped bases.
Really?
You won't get a wine glass with a stem.
Well, I mean, those wine glasses have become very popular at home. The ones without a stem.
Are they?
They are shaped exactly like the top of a wine glass, but they just don't have a stem.
Well, that's going to happen all the time.
I quite often drink my wine out of those.
Formal stemmed wine glasses are absolutely going out of fashion, and you soon won't be able to buy them.
Yeah.
That's a damn disgrace.
No, I like drinking out of the tumblers, actually. But there we are.
I can't stand drinking wine out of a tumbler.
How about Dickie, who says this?
I think
this is very opposite of your score. Porky doesn't even know the name of the Red Arrows, but knows what county they are based in.
Exactly.
Check him for an earpiece.
No, not at all.
I think we'll have to do that before he leaves. Anyway, I will see you on the warm-up on Saturday.
Of course.
From 11 o'clock. Loads of football to do, including the first game, which is Tottenham-Bournemouth.
And happy Good Friday.
Thank you very much indeed. This is TalkSport.
Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne, podcast from the 2 mics.
You're the one that said before this show, look at this idiot, he doesn't even have a housekeeper.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Well,
you think you're in the real world?
Well...
You need to get a grip, sonny boy.
Don't call me sonny boy.
Don't phone your mother. Phone Talk Sport.
Football on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
Athletico Radio.
Talk Sport.